Chapter 12:13. He'd run into bandits. A group of ferocious-looking men sat in a tavern in the city, where he would step on a chair and say some vulgar words, or they would raise a glass of wine and gulp it down, holding a seemingly unwilling woman by their side. Yi Zichen's sudden appearance seemed to have disrupted their revelry. The moment he entered, he felt the gazes of everyone in the tavern land on him. The people of the Divine Mountains don't look particularly friendly. Yi Zichen muttered to himself, then nodded and smiled at them, then took a few stealthy steps back. Before Yi Zichen even noticed, the tavern's doors slammed shut with a bang. At the entrance of the tavern, there were a few lackeys with evil smiles on their faces. Another lost little lamb. At this moment, the bald man with tattoos on his head who was sitting in the middle of the tavern revealed his white teeth and smiled. The group of guys that didn't look like good people also laughed with him. The bald, tattooed man walked up to Yi Zichen with dark circles under his eyes. His aura doubled the pressure Yi Zichen felt. A Sky Supreme. This bald man was at least a Sky Supreme. "Brother, you must have had a long journey. Give this little brother a pair of chopsticks." The baldy shouted towards the tavern with his back to Yi Zichen. The middle-aged man at the same table as the baldy immediately walked towards the kitchen. At the same time, the baldy's hand landed heavily on Yi Zichen's shoulder. "Come on, let's go together." "All right." Yi Zichen glanced at the baldy indifferently, but didn't pay it too much mind. He followed him over, then sat down calmly in front of everyone in the tavern. Earlier, Yi Zichen had wanted to leave simply because he didn't want to cause trouble for himself. But with the Yao Ceiling Pagoda in hand, what did he have to be afraid of? Yi Zichen's calmness caused the bald man's eyes to light up, but he simply smiled and didn't take it to heart. "Little brother, did you just arrive in the God Realm?" The middle-aged man put down his bowl and chopsticks. The bald man personally poured him a cup of wine. "That's right, I just arrived a few hours ago." As Yi Zichen answered the baldy's question, he poured the alcohol into his mouth. At first, Yi Zichen thought the wine on the Divine Mountains would be better than in the lower lands. But as soon as he took a sip, he discovered that it was only low-quality wine. In comparison, it wasn't even as good as the wine in the lower lands. He pursed his lips and put the wine glass aside. The bald man wanted to pour more wine for him, but he was stopped. "Don't pour it for me. Keep it for yourselves. Little brother, are you looking down on the wine that we rough people drink?" The bald man frowned slightly. "It's a little hard to swallow." Yi Zichen didn't beat around the bush. "I'm afraid this kind of alcohol can only be fed to livestock." With that, Yi Zichen hurriedly laughed. "Everyone, don't mind me too much. I'm a straightforward person, and I'm not targeting you. Actually, I just wanted to say that even animals wouldn't drink this. Aya, look at how stupid I am." A sheepish smile flashed across his face, and the gazes of the people in the tavern became unfriendly. A dark glint flashed across the bald man's eyes, but he waved them away and laughed heartily. "Little brother, since you don't like the wine that we rough people drink, I won't force you. You look tired from a long journey, so let's eat. Then I won't stand on ceremony." The food the people in the tavern were eating was actually quite ordinary. Who knew how long the dried beef had been in their mouths? It took a long time to bite through it, and the side dishes were quite ordinary. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to put on an act, Yi Zichen wouldn't have even bothered to pick up his chopsticks. He might as well eat the pills in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda that could fill his stomach. After about an hour, Yi Zichen patted his belly and burped. "Little brother, are you done eating?" During this time, no one in the tavern had touched their chopsticks. Yi Zichen was the only one eating happily. When he put down his chopsticks, everyone's gazes landed on him. The hostility in their eyes was so clear that even an idiot could sense it. However, Yi Zichen liked to pretend he didn't understand. He smiled kindly at the bald man. "I'm done. Thank you for your hospitality, big bro. It seems the God Realm is much better than where I used to live." "Little brother, from the sound of it, it seems the people on your side aren't particularly friendly," laughed the bald man. "That's right. Big bro, I won't lie to you. I just came up from the lower lands. There's a gang called the Axe Gang. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they've done all sorts of evil. They've killed, burned, and plundered everything. Back in the lower lands, I spent every day hoping to escape their clutches. Yi Zichen's expression was downcast, as if he'd suffered a lot at their hands. Anyone who ascended to the Divine Mountains had come from the lower lands. The Axe Gang had been around for a long time, so everyone in the tavern naturally knew of them. As for the news that the Axe Gang had destroyed Upheaval, only the great clans of the Divine Mountains knew about it. Small fries like the Bald Man had no chance of learning of such things. Little brother, you're right. The Axe Gang really has done all sorts of evil in the lower lands. Just the thought of them pisses me off. Yi Zichen's face contorted with indignation. Then he cupped his hands and smiled at the Bald Man. Forget it. Since you've ascended to the Divine Mountains, there's no need to mention them. I've eaten my fill, so I won't disturb your gathering any longer. Goodbye, big bro. As soon as Yi Zichen rose to his feet, 2 third-stage Earth Supremes appeared behind him and pressed down on his shoulders. Yi Zichen glanced at them out of the corner of his eye and laughed inwardly. But his face was a mask of confusion. This is... Little brother, don't be nervous. My brothers mean you no harm. The Bald Man smiled calmly, but his gaze turned icy. He tapped his fingers on the table and said, but as you can see, we're just barely surviving in the God Realm. Little brother, you just ate and drank quite a bit of our food. No matter what, you should at least give us something in return, right? This isn't free? Yi Zichen arched his brows. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Little brother, don't you think so? The Bald Man smirked and snorted. Little brother, you and I hit it off, so I don't want to bicker with you. But I'm not so sure about my brothers. Instantly, everyone in the tavern leapt to their feet. Countless auras locked onto Yi Zichen. I've only just arrived in the God Realm, and I'm already in this mess. TCH. Yi Zichen muttered to himself, then feigned anger and helplessness. Chapter 12:14. A greedy baldy. If anyone else were in this situation, they'd definitely think they'd run into bandits. In reality, that wasn't the case. This baldy was a bit different from the bandits in the Divine Mountains. He'd gone through the stages of becoming a Sky Supreme, and he'd experienced the robberies of the bandits. Given his own experience, he didn't like the way bandits handled things. Although he made a living by robbing others, he wouldn't kill them. In truth, his subordinates were all people he'd saved from the bandits. Ever since, they'd followed him loyally. They robbed, but compared to the bandits, they were kinder. As expected, little brother. When the Bald Man heard that, he laughed. He wasn't surprised at all that Yi Zichen would react like this. He'd seen this sort of situation countless times. He'd long since grown accustomed to it. Their team was small, and they had few ways to earn money. It was great news for them to be able to meet a hot-headed ascender. If he could take down Yi Zichen, they wouldn't have to worry about food and drink for a few months at the very least. If they ran into a big fish, they'd have enough to eat and wear for years to come. He just didn't know how many treasures they could squeeze out of Yi Zichen. He waved at Yi Zichen's subordinates and smiled. This meal isn't strange at all. 30,000 aureus. Little brother, you've just arrived on the Divine Mountains, so you probably don't have any aureus. But that's fine. Little brother, you can also use celestial coins to exchange, but that'll require an ocean's worth of them. I left all my celestial coins with my friends in the lower lands, so I'd better use something else as collateral. Big bro, what do you accept? Asked Yi Zichen. That's great. The Bald Man couldn't help but cheer inwardly. He loved sensible kids like Yi Zichen. In truth, whether Yi Zichen used celestial coins or other items as collateral, the baldy had an absolute advantage. In a situation like this, the ratio of celestial coins to aureus was whatever he said it was, and he'd be the one to determine the value of the items. 30,000 aureus was just an excuse. His goal was to draw out the exchange and celestial coins. We accept any item as collateral. Pills, artifacts, talismans, you can all use them as collateral. However, little brother, you should know that this place is different from the lower lands. What's valuable in the lower lands is worthless here. I know that. Yi Zichen nodded obediently, then took out a set of demigod battle armor from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Yi Zichen had only obtained it after clearing the second floor of the pagoda. I got this by chance when I was in the Arcana realm. Big brother, look, a quasi-relic. When the armor was taken out, Baldy's eyes widened. It was a full set of armor. Battle armors were generally more expensive than weapons because they required more materials. An ordinary set of demigod battle armor would cost at least 1,000,000 aureus on the God Mountain. Could it be that I've encountered a rich idiot? The Baldy's gaze towards Yi Zichen changed. He wasn't blinded by the benefits of the demigod armor. On the contrary, he became much more clear-headed. Those who could wield demigod armor in the lower lands were all dragons and phoenixes among men. There was no way they would be tricked so easily. However, the kid in front of him looked really dumb. Did fortune befall fools? It didn't matter whether this kid was pretending to be a pig, to eat a tiger, or whether fortune truly befell fools. The bald man had absolute confidence in Yi Zichen's strength as a Sky Supreme. "This armor is a demigod artifact," said the bald man. The bald man told Yi Zichen the grade of the armor. He didn't think that Yi Zichen didn't know. Demigod artifacts are rare treasures in the lower lands, but they're not so valuable in the God realm. Divine artifacts were everywhere on the streets. Even the farmers who plowed the fields used divine artifacts. "Little brother, your demigod artifact." The bald man shook his head, then put on a troubled expression. "I'll just give you 500 aureus." "That cheap?" Yi Zichen grimaced, his eyes filled with suspicion. However, when the bald man's gaze turned cold, Yi Zichen immediately shrank back in fear, then scowled miserably as he pulled out other treasures from the Yao ceiling pagoda. The bald man's eyes widened in shock. This was definitely a big fish. Although that was what he thought, he was still trying to appraise the priceless treasures of the Divine Mountains. Anyone who heard this would want to beat him to death. Supreme pills. These pills aren't bad. 300 aureus a bottle. Black jade. This is an ordinary material. 50 aureus a kilogram. 10-year divine wood. This material is relatively rare. 1,000 aureus apiece. The ingredients and pills Yi Zichen took out practically filled up the entire table. The subordinates in the tavern all stared in shock, their mouths dry up. Even the bald man couldn't help but gulp. In his heart, he wanted to kill Yi Zichen and steal his treasures. Fortunately, he had at least the slightest bit of conscience. He didn't want to harm Yi Zichen's life. "Little brother, these pills you've just pulled out are worth around 27,000 aureus. If you add a bit more, you'll have 30,000. The bald man had already pushed the price down to 27,000. It was easy to imagine how much Yi Zichen's treasures would be worth if he sold them to a proper merchant association. To tell the truth, the bald man wanted to give up. These treasures were already enough for them to live a carefree life for 100 years, or even 1,000 years. However, he still wanted to be greedy. If Yi Zichen really couldn't afford it, he might as well give it up. He'd also owe Yi Zichen a favor. This baldy really is greedy. Although Yi Zichen didn't know much about the God Realm's prices, he was sure his treasures were worth far more than 30,000 aureus. But this baldy wasn't satisfied. He wanted to squeeze more out of him. How greedy! Fortunately, he didn't get greedy at the sight of Yi Zichen's riches. At least he had some humanity left in him. "I don't have any more." Yi Zichen scowled and pretended to be at a loss. When he saw Yi Zichen like this, the bald man couldn't bear to see him like this. Just as he was about to let this pitiful little supreme off the hook. "I don't have any more pills or talismans, but I do have some spiritual beasts. Big bro, do you want them?" Spiritual beasts? What was the most expensive thing in the God Realm? Pills? Treasures? Talismans? Materials? None of them. In the God Realm, the most expensive and also the rarest were spiritual beasts. The definition of a spirit beast was a divine beast that could be tamed and turned into a servant. Having a spirit beast was a symbol of status. Any divine beast-level spirit beast was priceless in the black market. This little guy actually had a spiritual beast? This was a huge surprise. Yes. Of course I'll take them." At first, he was just about to give up, but when he heard about spiritual beasts, he instantly changed his mind. This baldy was just too greedy. Yi Zichen couldn't be bothered to play with him any longer. He connected his divine sense to the Yao ceiling pagoda. Chapter 12:15. A misunderstanding under the night sky a man and a woman dressed in orange-yellow uniforms with an image of a blue bird on top sped through the night. At that moment, the young man with the lightning rush haircut came to a stop. The young man was well-built, while the woman beside him was petite. When the young man came to a stop, he bowed respectfully to the woman. "Senior sister, that should be the tavern the client mentioned." When she heard this, the woman called senior sister also came to a stop. A faint light flashed across his clear eyes, and a fierce look flashed across his eyes. "That's it. There shouldn't be any mistake." The stocky young man's eyes flashed. "There's only one tavern nearby, and it's about the same size as the client said." "That's good. But senior sister, are we really going to provoke those people? If they really are those bandits, it'll be difficult for the two of us to get anything out of them. Why don't we put this matter off for a bit and notify the academy?" There was a hint of hesitation in the young man's eyes, and his tone was filled with uneasiness and cowardice. However, before he could finish speaking, he felt a sharp aura piercing towards him, causing him to forcefully swallow the words that he was about to say. "If you're afraid, you can go back." As she spoke, the woman's eyes flashed even more fiercely. Her body glowed with a faint light, like a thin veil draped over her. She glanced coolly at the young man, but didn't linger. With a few leaps, she made for the city. In truth, they were both students of Skyspan Academy on the northern Divine Mountain. They'd come to Ice Mount City to buy the ice crystals his senior sister needed for her cultivation. They'd already bought the ice crystals, and all they had to do was wait until dawn to return to the academy. However, just as they were about to find a place to stay, they ran into a middle-aged man. The man looked flustered, as if asking for help. Given his personality, it was better to avoid trouble than trouble. He wanted to drag his senior sister away with him. However, his senior sister had a chivalrous air about her. After listening to the man's explanation, she'd immediately promised to help the client take back the tavern. On the way here, he tried to persuade her repeatedly, but she'd ignored all of his advice. And now, this senior sister of his had left him behind and gone off on her own. If senior sister was injured, she would be scolded to death by those old fellows when she returned to the academy. Since there was no way to leave, the young man could only bite the bullet and shout, "Senior sister, wait for me." Yi Zichen didn't even need to use the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's 9th stage Sky Supremes to deal with them. All he had to do was send a few 3rd stage Sky Supremes to subdue them. All the bandits in the tavern had been tied up and tossed into a corner. Yi Zichen sat on a chair and stowed away the treasures he'd just pulled out. As for why he didn't take the robbers' treasures, what kind of treasure could there possibly be for Yi Zichen to go and get if they're eating and drinking so badly? Dong! At that very moment, the tavern's door was kicked open, causing wood shards to fly all over the floor, while a few of them even flew towards Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen slapped the table and dodged the shards, then sat back down. His gaze focused on the door. Standing in front of the door was a woman in an orange-yellow school uniform. Although she wasn't very tall, her short hair made her seem capable and experienced. Her sharp eyes made her seem even more heroic. At the same time, a muscular youth ran up to her. Naturally, they were the students from Skyspan Academy, who'd just spoken. The youth was jogging to catch up, but his senior sister was clearly even faster. By the time he arrived, she'd already kicked the door open. "Senior sister?" the youth asked tentatively, only to discover that his senior sister had long since forgotten about him. She stared intently at Yi Zichen, who stood inside the tavern. Yi Zichen looked the same way. "So it's you." After a long, drawn-out stare, the woman spoke to Yi Zichen coldly. "Who are you? Are you with them?" Yi Zichen's tone wasn't all that pleasant. His gaze shifted between the woman and the youth. Sky Supremes. Judging from the fluctuations coming from their bodies, they were both Sky Sovereigns. However, judging from their fluctuating divine power, even if they were Sky Supremes, they'd only just broken through. Their control over their power wasn't particularly good. This little gang wasn't bad. There were actually 3 Sky Supremes among them. Their divine senses were already connected to the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. If they made the slightest move, the pagoda's experts would instantly subdue them. You really can't judge a book by its cover. In response to Yi Zichen's questioning, The female student snorted coolly. Huh? Scared? Yi Zichen assumed she was referring to the fact that she hadn't expected him to be this strong. He couldn't help but snort. If you're scared, then hurry up and scram. If you back out now, I might spare your life. It really is him, the woman thought to herself. This guy looked so refined, yet he was up to something so despicable. From the looks of it, he was collecting his stolen goods. Fortunately, she'd arrived just in time. If she'd been too late, he might have escaped. Yi Zichen glanced at the tavern's walls, out of the corner of his eye. The people tied up in the corner had their feet stripped and their mouths stuffed with socks. How disgusting. Not only did he want to steal their money, but he also wanted to humiliate them. Scum like him couldn't be allowed to live. Although Yi Zichen and the woman hadn't spoken much, sparks flew when their gazes met. The young man couldn't help but gulp involuntarily. This youth didn't look like a pushover. If they really attacked. Before he could think further, his senior apprentice sister attacked. Buzz! A powerful wave of divine power appeared in the tavern. In an instant, the temperature in the tavern suddenly dropped to 0. Everything in the tavern was covered in a thin layer of ice. Overwhelming coldness assaulted Yi Zichen from all directions. In the face of this chill, even Yi Zichen trembled slightly. Ice element. She's the same type as Big Sister Lu? And Lulu. Yi Zichen's cultivation was inferior to the woman's to begin with. If he stayed in this kind of cold for too long, he'd definitely be injured. Yi Zichen arched his brows, then hurriedly summoned the experts of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. The moment they appeared, the coldness in the tavern dropped significantly. The woman standing at the entrance of the tavern also frowned. The sturdy young man beside her even glared and shouted, "Senior apprentice sister, it's a sky supreme. I don't need you to say that. Hurry up and help." The woman glared viciously at the youth. Yi Zichen licked his lips and twisted his neck. Chapter 12:16. Schwem Mo. These two Skyspan Academy students had only just broken through, but Yi Zichen had recruited 6-stage Sky Supremes from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. It was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. They didn't even have a chance to resist before the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's experts tied them up. After capturing the two of them, the experts in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda returned to the pagoda. You have to learn to judge the situation, understand? Yi Zichen rolled his eyes at them, then tidied up the treasures on the table. Can't you see? I tied them up and tossed them into a corner, yet you two still want to avenge them? Are you brainless? Despicable scum. The bound woman struggled with all her might, but to no avail. All she could do was glare at Yi Zichen and curse. Are you kidding me? Are you calling me a despicable scum? Yi Zichen put away the treasures on the table, put his hands behind his back, walked up to the woman, and grabbed her by the chin. Compared to you, I'm a despicable scum? Aren't you? The woman's expression was fierce. She straightened her neck and glared at Yi Zichen. You stole someone else's shop, stole their money, and trampled on their dignity by stuffing socks in their mouths. Aren't you a despicable scum? Let me tell you, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're strong. People like you are scum. Are you crazy? Yi Zichen released the woman's chin with a speechless expression. He was clearly the one who'd been robbed. Yet this woman was accusing him first? What? You still don't want to admit it. I saw you packing up your loot when I came in. What are you trying to say? Laughed the woman disdainfully. Got it. This woman must have thought that after he tied up her accomplices, he had robbed them of their money. But that wasn't a problem. They'd stolen it from others anyway. It didn't belong to them. He shrugged his shoulders in an indifferent manner. Since she already thought that way, then he might as well do it. Furthermore, a Sky Supreme expert would probably have some valuable treasures in their hands. Yi Zichen licked his lips, then reached into the woman's robes. Don't overthink it. He wasn't trying to take advantage of her. Absolutely not. What are you trying to do? When the woman saw Yi Zichen's actions, her eyes flashed with fear. What? What do you think I can do? Yi Zichen purposefully put on a lecherous expression, while the fingers of his right hand continuously moved forward. You'd best stop. If you dare do anything to me, my master won't let you get away with it. Skyspan Academy won't let you get away with it. But due to her nervousness, the woman's voice became especially shrill. She closed her eyes and screamed, causing Yi Zichen to stop as well. Skyspan Academy? Didn't she just mention Skyspan Academy? What did you just say? Yi Zichen composed himself and spoke. The woman gently sighed in relief when that pair of evil hands did not touch her holy body. She immediately snorted angrily. I say, you'd better not do anything to me, or my master won't let you off. Skyspan Academy won't let you off either. Do you know that Skyspan Academy was founded by the Sea of Innocence? If you provoke me, you provoke Skyspan Academy. And if you provoke Skyspan Academy, you provoke the Sea of Innocence. If you provoke the Sea of Innocence, don't even think about establishing yourself on the Northern Divine Mountain. Even if you run off to the other Divine Mountains, the Sea of Innocence will hunt you down relentlessly. Even if you lose focus. Stop. It seemed this was all a misunderstanding. If she was a student of Skyspan Academy, why did she say she was in cahoots with those lowly bandits? Could it be that the bandits were also students of Skyspan Academy? If that was the case, then no matter what, he wouldn't go to Skyspan Academy. No matter what, Yi Zichen was now certain that this woman was a lunatic. She was just a student of Skyspan Academy. Did she really think she was some big shot? She even brought up the Sea of Innocence and the Northern Divine Mountain. She really did overestimate her own worth. Scared? If you're scared, then hurry up and let me go, shouted the woman viciously. I can untie you, but before I do that, I need to confirm a few things with you. If all of this was just a misunderstanding, it would be fine. But if these two really were students of Skyspan Academy, and if they were connected to those lowly bandits, or if they were from Skyspan Academy, Yi Zichen wouldn't just untie them. Just tie them up. If she had the guts, she'd have the Northern Divine Mountain hunt him down. Yi Zichen refused to believe that, in terms of his relationship with the Northern Divine Mountain, this little girl was inferior to him. Ask, snorted the woman. What's your name? When talking to someone, Yi Zichen habitually asked for their name. Xuemo. As soon as the woman spoke, the muscular youth beside her laughed foolishly. Chen Guangfa, the one I tied up over there. You say he's with them? Does that mean they're also from Skyspan Academy? No, said Xuem. Then are you their masterminds? Or should I say, their accomplices? What do you mean? Xuemo frowned. If you're not, then let me ask you something. Why did you say you were in cahoots with them? Are you crazy? Wasn't she the type to cause trouble for no reason? If she hadn't said she was in cahoots with those bandits, would Yi Zichen have attacked them? I'm standing on the side of justice. Xuemo straightened her neck and snorted. Helping the weak is my life's mission. You took advantage of your cultivation to seize someone else's shop and steal their money. You've gone astray. If you realize your error and let me and my junior apprentice brother go, I'll punish you accordingly. Understood. Yi Zichen understood everything. He'd mistaken this girl for a bandit. Yi Zichen rubbed his forehead and sighed, then muttered an incantation to loosen their ropes. Then he pointed at the bandits by the wall. Helping the weak isn't bad, but I hope you'll grow some brains. Those people over there are the scum you keep calling scum. They took someone else's shop by force and stole their money. I'm just a victim who happened to be passing by. Maybe they were unlucky, and I took care of them. Do you understand? He glared at Xuemo and vented his anger. When they heard this, both Xuemo and her junior apprentice brother froze. Xuemo felt a little guilty. She glanced at Chen Guangfa. The muscular youth, Chen Guangfa, arched his brows and ran over to the bandits. He lifted their heads one by one. Then his expression changed. He ran over to Xuemo's side, lowered his voice, and said, "What are you doing?" Chapter 12:17. The lost crystal card. Xuemo put her hands on her hips and stared icily at Chen Guangfa. When Chen Guangfa whispered in her ear, her eyes visibly widened. She turned and looked at Chen Guangfa. When she saw his expression, she frowned and walked to a corner. Senior apprentice sister, look. Behind Xuemo, Chen Guangfa revealed his bald head and said softly, "Don't worry. This is the target of our academy's high-level mission, Li Cheng. He's a fourth-stage Sky Supreme with over 20 subordinates. Although he's not a member of the bandits gang, he's still a relatively famous bandit. If I'm not mistaken, the others he's tied up are probably his accomplices." Chen Guangfa spoke carefully, then licked his lips. We really did make a mistake. Instantly, the tavern fell so silent that even the drop of a pin could be heard. Shui Mo rubbed her lips uncomfortably. Her clear eyes brimmed with indescribable awkwardness. Chen Guangfa didn't need to tell her. She knew they'd made a mistake. Li Cheng had been on the Academy's mission board for almost a year now. How could she possibly not recognize him? When she thought back to what the person who'd asked her to do, it really had been a group of people who'd taken over the tavern, not just one person. It was all her fault for running into him just now. He just happened to be tidying up the treasures on the table, so she'd subconsciously mistaken him for a bandit. Of course, Shui Mo wasn't the type to take responsibility for her mistakes. Now that she knew she'd wronged him, she immediately put on an apologetic expression and bowed deeply. "I'm sorry, I missed you. This person is on our Skyspan Academy's bounty. Since you took care of him, why don't you come with me back to the Academy to receive your reward? When the time comes, I'll play host and apologize to you." With that, she deliberately put on a gentle smile and nodded at Yi Zichen. "You're crazy." Yi Zichen rolled his eyes viciously, then turned and left the tavern. Shui Mo froze in place, as if she'd been petrified. She watched helplessly as Yi Zichen left. After a while, she came to her senses and flung her arms. The temperature in the tavern suddenly dropped, and the biting cold wind mixed with ice and snow wreaked havoc. Beside him, Chen Guangfa did not even dare to breathe loudly. He could only silently circulate his divine power to resist the cold. "What are you acting all high and mighty about?" After a while, when the tavern was covered in a layer of frost, Shui Mo spat with an annoyed expression. The chill in the tavern receded considerably. Chen Guangfa, who was bitterly resisting the cold, carefully glanced at Shui Mo's expression, then gulped. "Senior sister, what should we do with these people? What else can we do? Capture them and bring them to the Academy." When Chen Guangfa heard this, he hurriedly got to work. Shui Mo, on the other hand, watched Yi Zichen leave with a frosty expression. At that moment, Shui Mo saw a flash of silver. Yi Zichen took a closer look and saw a crystal card lying on the chair where Yi Zichen had been sitting. Yi Zichen. This crystal card was none other than the one Huangyang had warned Yi Zichen over and over again not to lose it. Who is the lunatic here? Not even taking care of the crystal card properly? Shui Mo pinched the edge of her crystal card and walked outside. By now, Yi Zichen was nowhere to be seen. "Senior sister, should we go back to the Academy now or leave tomorrow morning?" Baldy and the others had all disappeared from the tavern. If there were no surprises, they should have been kept into Chen Guangfa's spatial divine tool. Chen Guangfa's gaze fell on the crystal card in Shui Mo's hand. He leaned over and glanced at it. "Isn't that the person just now?" Chen Guangfa exclaimed in astonishment. The importance of a crystal card in the Divine Mountain was second only to the person's life. If he lost it, he would have no way of establishing himself in the God realm. But not long after, Chen Guangfa shouted again. "Senior apprentice sister, look at the date he arrived at the Divine Mountain." Shui Mo was still trying to figure out what to do with the crystal card. When she heard Chen Guangfa shout, she glanced at it again. Not long after, she froze. She stared at the date and confirmed it several times. The date is today. To be precise, it should be yesterday. "It is already past Ling Chun," Chen Guangfa said. Silence. How is that possible? If the date on the crystal card really was when Yi Zichen ascended, how could he have subdued Li Cheng? No, that wasn't entirely possible. When she fought Yi Zichen, several peerless experts had suddenly appeared in the tavern. It was entirely possible that he was a descendant of some great family clan, and those experts had been protecting him from the shadows. When Li Cheng wanted to do something bad to him, those experts appeared and suppressed him. But if he was someone from the Divine Mountains, then the crystal card shouldn't have been yesterday. It should have been given to him the moment he was born. But if he were an ascender, there shouldn't be experts protecting him, right? Shui Mo felt like her brain had run out of steam. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't come up with a logical explanation for the expert's appearance or the date on the crystal card. "Senior apprentice sister?" Chen Guangfa interrupted her train of thought. "What did you just say?" Shuemo suppressed her confusion and said, I said, what should we do now? I said, what should we do now? Should we wait here for him to return? Or should we just go back to the academy? Of course we should wait here. If he loses his crystal card, how can he establish himself on the divine mountains? But the academy only gave us 3 days off, and in a few days, it'll be time for new students. Don't forget, you made a bet with Sun Jialing this time. As she said this, Shuemo's eyes flashed with hesitation. Sun Jialing was in the same batch as her, but Sun Jialing opposed her in every way. A few days ago, the two of them had made a bet about who could recruit the most new members for their respective societies. As for the punishment for the loser, it was rather childish. Whoever lost would have to stand naked in the academy grounds for an hour. At first, Shuemo disdained making a bet with Sun Jialing. After all, no matter what, her society's chances of winning were lower than Sun Jialing's. But that woman had pushed her too far, forcing her into a corner. In the end, she agreed. Of course, whether it was because of her pride or because of the punishment, she had to win. By now, there were already ascenders hurrying to Skyspan City. Quite a few student societies were mobilizing new students. For Shuemo, who had made a bet, this period of time was especially important. But when she thought about the crystal card in her hand, Chapter 12:18. School opening Skyspan City's original name was Blue Sea City, and it was surrounded by water. However, 10,000 years ago, the Skyspan Trading Company was located there, and the city's name was changed to Skyspan City. The meaning was simple: Skyspan. The Northern Divine Mountains Skyspan Academy was actually a subsidiary of the Skyspan Trading Company. Their teachers and funds were all provided by the trading company. Apparently, the Sea of Innocence provided a portion as well, but based on the name of the academy, it was obvious that the Skyspan Trading Company was taking the lion's share. Anyone from a Northern Divine Mountain would suspect the Skyspan Trading Company's background. Some said that the Sea of Innocence was backing them from the shadows, while others held the opposite opinion. As for the Skyspan Trading Company's true identity, perhaps only those at the very top of the God Realm knew the truth. Skyspan Academy was officially established by the Sea of Innocence. It was located in the northern part of Skyspan City, taking up nearly a tenth of the city. It was the first and only academy on the Northern Divine Mountain, and also the only one dedicated to teaching students the Tao and dispelling doubts. The academy's goal was to help newcomers ascend to the Divine Mountains, as well as newly ascended children who'd been living on the Divine Mountains for a long time, learn systematically and plan for the future. Compulsory education lasted 5 years. If you wanted to continue your studies after 5 years, you could apply. Once the academy approved, you'd also have to pay 3,000 aureus per year to continue your studies. Of course, 3,000 aureus seemed like a hefty sum. But as long as you studied hard and completed the missions the academy assigned you, you could earn 3,000 aureus per year as an Earth Supreme. Furthermore, the academy had a bounty list of missions. Completing missions earned you points, which you could use to exchange for money or treasures. Skyspan Academy recruited students once every 100 years, and there weren't many restrictions. As long as you weren't a diviner, you could apply. Even if you were expelled, you could reapply the next time. As a result, large numbers of Earth Supremes, and even Sky Supremes, rushed to the academy every year. Currently, Skyspan Academy was in the middle of a fervent recruitment drive. TCH, there sure are a lot of people here. The city at the foot of the Divine Mountains was large enough to house over 10 million people, but compared to the cities on the Divine Mountains, it was tiny. Skyspan Academy took up nearly a tenth of Skyspan City. But even so, the registration area was packed with people. From time to time, arguments would break out, and fights would break out. Just now, Yi Zichen had personally seen a few people start fighting over registration. Fortunately, Skyspan Academy's people had appeared to intimidate them, and they'd all calmed down. How did I manage to slip in here without rhyme or reason? Yi Zichen, who stood outside the crowd, couldn't help but scratch his head. He had noticed the loss of his crystal card a few days ago. The first thing he thought of was where he might have lost it. By the time he rushed back to the restaurant, Shui Mo and Chen Guangfa had already left. Of course, he also heard that they had been waiting for him for several days. Although he was a little touched, but it was useless. In the end, he still didn't get his crystal card back. The only way to enter the Skyspan Trading Company was with a crystal card. Without a crystal card, he was an unregistered student, and the academy wouldn't accept him. In fact, they might even lock him up as a criminal with ulterior motives. Originally, he didn't want to come here, but perhaps because he hoped he'd run into Shui Mo and the others and get his crystal card back, he'd come. However, when he saw the sea of people before him, he couldn't help but sigh at how naive he'd been. If you knew I might go to the tavern to get it, why didn't you just leave the car with the owner before you left? Yi Zichen rolled his eyes in exasperation, sighed, glanced at Skyspan Academy's registration area, shook his head, and left. Take care, friend. At that moment, Yi Zichen heard someone call out to him from behind. He stopped and turned around. He saw a young man running towards him with a smile on his face. You're a new student, aren't you? You are? Yi Zichen arched his brows, narrowed his eyes, and maintained a suitable distance. Hey, I'm the 6th platoon leader of Skyspan Academy's Grizzly Bear Society, Bao Jingwu. As he spoke, the youth reached out with a smile. How should I address you, friend? Yi Zichen was a little dazed by this person's enthusiasm. He instinctively reached out. Yi Zichen, Brother Yi, just from your name alone, I can tell you're extraordinary. In the future, you'll surely become a dragon among men. Would you be interested in joining our Grizzly Bear Society? I'm not exaggerating when I say that we're one of the top 5 student societies in Skyspan Academy. We have over 1 million members. It's fate that we ran into each other here, Brother Yi. How about you just join us? We have a lot of girls, and the benefits are great. He clearly had a rough, manly face, but at the end, he'd added a cute epilogue. Yi Zichen couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Was it disgusting? Bao Jingwu felt disgusted too, but he had no choice. In truth, the recruitment ceremony was simple. All you had to do was show your crystal card and sign up. The most intense competition was between the student societies, big and small. After all, although this was an academy, anyone who could cultivate to the supreme level was no longer a child. Student societies represented their own power. The stronger a team was, the more resources they could receive, and the easier it was for them to complete bounty missions. This squad leader, named Bao Jingwu, was helpless. Squad leaders like him were actually the lowest of the low. The higher-ups would assign them the task of recruiting new students. They had to meet the requirements in order to maintain the rank of squad leader. If they didn't, the society wouldn't fill in the gaps for them. If their squad didn't have enough members, they'd be fired. Ordinary student societies had roughly the same standards as Huangyang's squad. 8 people. Bao Jingwu had just been promoted to a squad leader this year. He didn't have a single member yet, so he had no choice but to do this. Brother Yi, are you coming? Bao Jingwu suppressed his disgust, rubbed his hands, and looked at Yi Zichen expectantly. It was hard to refuse such kindness. Logically speaking, if possible, Yi Zichen wouldn't disrespect Bao Jingwu. However, he didn't have a crystal card and hadn't even entered Skyspan Academy yet. How could he join a student society? But when he saw Bao Jingwu's expectant gaze, he didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. Cough, cough. In truth, he was afraid that if he told the truth, Bao Jingwu would scold him for wasting so much time. Give up. He won't join your society. However, at that moment, he heard a chuckle. Then Yi Zichen saw Shui Mo, Chen Guangfa, and a tall, slender, and extremely beautiful woman walk over as well. Chapter 12:19. An enraged Shui Moin, such a noisy environment. Shui Mo's voice wasn't particularly conspicuous. However, for some inexplicable reason, everyone at the registration counter subconsciously cleared a path for her. Bao Jingwu, who'd been trying to entice Yi Zichen this whole time, gulped. Brother Yi, I'm sorry. I didn't know you knew senior sister Shui, said Bao Jingwu with an apologetic smile, then took a few steps back. Bao Jingwu, Shui Mo isn't a member of the Grizzly Bears. Why are you so afraid of her? At that moment, the bewitching woman who'd come with Shui Mo frowned. Bao Jingwu, who'd retreated far away, looked at the woman with even greater fear. Platoon leader Sunday, platoon leader? This woman was the platoon leader of the grizzly bears? Why did such a beautiful woman have a name like Grizzly Bears, right? Bao Jingwu had introduced himself as the leader of the 6th platoon. It seemed that this woman wasn't the true boss of the grizzly bears. However, for her to become platoon leader, she was no ordinary person. Platoon leader Sun glared viciously at Bao Jingwu, then crossed her arms and said to Shui Mo, "This little brother is obviously a member of the grizzly bears. This little brother is obviously someone our grizzly bears are talking to. Shui Mo, it's not good for you to steal him so openly. Hurry up and put away your seductive charms. Save them for Pang Zheng," sneered Shui Mo. "What did you say? Sun Jialing, don't you know why you became platoon leader of the 6th platoon?" Shui Mo glanced coolly at the woman, then laughed evilly. "I heard you accompanied him for 2 months. Do you really think it's worth it to trade 2 months for a platoon leader?" As soon as she said this, Shui Mo's eyes brimmed with regret. Everyone in Skyspan Academy knew there was a grudge between Sun Jialing and Shui Mo. As a result, their appearance at the same time attracted quite a bit of attention. Shui Mo hadn't bothered to hide her words. So long as one wasn't deaf, practically everyone heard what she just said. The rumors are true? Did Sun Jialing really sleep with Pang Zheng for 2 months? I knew it was true a long time ago. Since news spread, it couldn't possibly be baseless. Now that senior sister Shui has personally said it, it can't be false. The other commanders of the Grizzly Bear Society are all 7th-stage Sky, Sovereigns, and above. Only Sun Jialing hasn't been here for very long, and she's only an Earth Supreme. Yet she's a commander. Who doesn't know what's going on? The students around them whispered amongst themselves. When Sun Jialing heard the gossip, her face flushed red with anger. She pointed a finger at Shui Mo, but Shui Mo didn't seem to care. She just stared at her. "Don't talk nonsense. Don't you know whether I'm talking nonsense or not?" Regardless of whether this was true or not, Shui Mo had already won in terms of momentum. Shui Mo rolled her eyes at the woman in an unfriendly manner and said, "Don't worry. As for your accusation that I stole your people, that's even more ridiculous. I've known this person for a long time. Half a month ago, he agreed to join anti-upheaval. Understand?" The smell of gunpowder was a little strong. Yi Zichen, who was right in the middle of the battle, was terrified the 2 women's battle would affect him. He glanced at Shui Mo, only to discover that she was looking right back at him. "I knew you'd come here." When her eyes met Yi Zichen's, Shui Mo smiled. "I circled the area several times just to look for you. Don't waste time with those Grizzly Bear Society bastards. We agreed to join them half a month ago, didn't we?" Did we?" Yi Zichen said bluntly. The only time they'd met was in the tavern, and it wasn't a particularly pleasant memory. No matter how hard he thought about it, he couldn't remember ever discussing such things. Shui Mo's expression instantly changed. Was this guy an idiot? She really wanted to shout at him. Sun Jialing, who'd just been humiliated by Shui Mo, smiled seductively and shook her head. "You've been exposed for your lies, haven't you? No one will believe a liar like you, no matter what you say." Sun Jialing said this in order to lessen the impact of Shui Mo's words. Sun Jialing smiled charmingly, then walked up to Yi Zichen. "Join our society. Don't be fooled by anti-upheaval status as one of the top 5 societies, but that's all in the past. There's no way they can compare to our Grizzly Bear Society. Our society has access to the best resources in the entire academy. You'll only be able to develop better if you join us. Don't hesitate. Just look at them. Even the society president has to personally recruit new students. How strong can their society possibly be? In a few months, I'm afraid they won't even make it into the top 100. Also, let me tell you a little gossip. Do you know why the once famous anti-upheaval society has fallen so far?" "Shut up." Suddenly, Shui Mo's expression darkened. A biting cold wind howled through the air. Sun Jialing glanced over her shoulder playfully, and a faint red light appeared around her. "They're all dead. Nearly 1 million of our society members died. Less than 100 of them are still alive. Even the higher-ups of the Sea of Innocence got involved. If she hadn't let her emotions get the better of her, anti-upheaval society president and members wouldn't have died. What a pity. 1 million lives were lost, all because of her. It's strange, though. She committed such a grave crime, yet Skyspan Academy still kept her around. She even inherited anti-upheaval's position. You say I slept with her to get my position, but how did our society president manage to stay in Skyspan Academy after all that happened? Everyone fell silent. This really was a big deal for Skyspan Academy. Back then, anti-upheaval had lost nearly 1 million Supreme-level experts, as well as over 100,000 Sky Supremes. The Sea of Innocence, the Skyspan Trading Company, Skyspan Academy, and even the 30 city lords of the Northern Divine Mountain Skyspan City had all come personally. In the end, for some reason, the higher-ups suppressed the matter. No one brought it up again. Quite a few people in the Academy hated Shui Mo precisely because of that incident. In truth, no one really knew the truth, but Skyspan Academy students knew that out of 1 million people, she was the only one to return alive. On her way back, she cried and complained that it was all her fault. Everyone couldn't help but think she was the cause of everything. You won't shut up? A plum blossom mark suddenly appeared on Shui Mo's forehead, her eyes bloodshot. A long sword wreathed in ice and snow emerged from the mark. As soon as the sword appeared, it froze everything within 10,000 miles. In front of the entrance to the registration office, it was as if several snow demons had appeared in the surroundings. The snowstorm slapped against the lapels of everyone's clothes. Shui Mo raised her hand and gripped the hilt of her sword. Senior apprentice sister. Off to the side, Chun Guangfa's eyes widened. Shui Mo tilted her chin up, and the plum blossom mark on her forehead seemed to come alive, crawling all over her forehead. Chapter 1220. Join the society, Shui Mo. This is the Academy. How dare you? This was Skyspan Academy's territory, and it was forbidden for students to engage in private fights within the Academy grounds. But the moment Shui Mo unsealed her sword, Sun Jialing was truly terrified. I don't dare. Why wouldn't I dare? Shui Mo's lips curled into a cold smile. Her scarlet eyes seemed even more dazzling than the pure white of the snow. She flipped her right hand, and the sword screeched. In the blink of an eye, Shui Mo became one with the sword. With unstoppable momentum, she stabbed viciously at Sun Jialing's chest. It was clear that Shui Mo wasn't just trying to scare Sun Jialing. She really wanted to kill her. Shui Mo. As Sun Jialing screamed, countless defensive talismans appeared in front of her. At this time, Sun Jialing was crazily throwing these expensive defensive charms as if they were free. But against Shui Mo and her sword, these talismans were as fragile as paper. When the final talisman shattered, when the talismans in her ring ran out, all Sun Jialing could see was her and her sword. Her face was grim, and her sword was cold. No! Sun Jialing closed her eyes and leaned her hand forward. At that moment, a bolt of lightning flashed across the crowd's field of vision. There was a ding. Both Shui Mo and her sword froze in place. Lightning crackled along the blade of her sword, and her hand felt a little numb. Pang Zheng, are you trying to stick your nose in someone else's business? At that moment, the onlookers turned to look at the bolt of lightning. A smiling, white-robed young man appeared 10 meters away. He was over 6 feet tall and had long hair. He carried Sun Jialing in his arms. This was the leader of the Grizzly Bear Society and one of Skyspan Academy's strongest students. He was half a step into the diviner realm. Pang Zheng, patting Sun Jialing's shoulder lightly, Pang Zheng let go of her and chuckled. The Academy forbids private fights. I'm doing this for society leader Shui's sake. Besides, Sun Jialing is the leader of our society. If she's in danger, as the society leader, it's only right for me to step in. She's the one with the nasty mouth. She deserves to die, scolded Shui Mo, her eyes like snow. I sincerely apologize for my members' rashness. When we return to the club, I will punish her properly. I will definitely make her remember the pain of her slip of the tongue. Today is the day of the Academy's recruitment, and it wouldn't be good for anyone if blood was spilled. Why don't we put this matter behind us? I'll personally pay you a visit a few days later to apologize. I hope that President Shui can give me face." Pang Zheng maintained a smile as he spoke. This kind of humble and courteous tone that made others feel like they were bathing in a cool breeze won the favor of both the old and new students. It wasn't until Chen Guangfa leaned over and whispered a few words into her ear that she calmly sealed her sword back into the plum blossom seal. She glanced at Sun Jialing and Pang Zheng with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. "All right, since Pang Zheng is here today, I'll spare your lowly life. If you dare say something like that again, not even the headmaster can save you. I, Shui Mo, am a man of my word. Also, the bet between you and me will proceed as planned." With a snort, Shui Mo glanced at Yi Zichen. "Come with me." The onlookers parted to let them leave. Just now, they'd been on the verge of a fight. If Pang Zheng hadn't arrived, Sun Jialing really might have died there and then. Even after Shui Mo and the others left, Sun Jialing's expression was one of lingering fear. "Cousin, in the future, learn to use your brains. Don't bring up what happened all those years ago. You were lucky that I saved you this time. If you provoke her again, forget about the headmaster. Not even your father will be able to save you. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know. I have other matters to attend to. You, behave yourself." Pang Zheng glanced at Shui Mo. Others might not know what that plum blossom represented, but he did. The power of her bloodline. No wonder. "Wait, why should I go with you?" Yi Zichen didn't know why, but he obediently followed Shui Mo. When they reached an ancient manor, he couldn't help but ask, "Don't tell me you don't know why you're following us?" Shui Mo stopped in front of him. With a wave of her hand, a crystal card appeared in her palm. When he saw it, Yi Zichen's pupils constricted. He reached out and grabbed it. Along the way, Shui Mo put it away. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows. "That's my crystal card. Hurry up and give it to me." "So you know it's your card?" Shui Mo rolled her eyes at Yi Zichen, then continued walking. Since the crystal card was in her hands, there was nothing Yi Zichen could do, so he could only follow her. When they reached a lotus pond, Shui Mo stopped. "Your crystal card is so important, yet you lost it. Fortunately, a kind-hearted person like me found it. If it weren't for you, you'd be dead." She tapped the card on Yi Zichen's head. Just as he was about to reach out and snatch it back, Shui Mo put it away. "Do you want your crystal card back?" Yi Zichen frowned. "Hurry up and give it to me." When she saw Yi Zichen's angry expression, Shui Mo smiled faintly and fiddled with the card. "If you want to go back, it's simple. Just join the team." Fine. I'll join. Hurry up and give me the card. I'll go sign up right now. Once I sign up, I'll join your team. Okay? I've already taken care of everything for you." "Guangfa," as Shui Mo called out to him. The burly Chen Guangfa dashed over like a wisp of smoke, a sheet of golden paper in his hands. He placed it in front of Yi Zichen. To his astonishment, it was an application to join the team. "Use your blood essence to write your name on this. That means you've successfully joined. Once you've succeeded, I'll naturally return this crystal card to you." So formal. Joining the team required blood essence. There was clearly some sort of contract involved. If he'd joined any other team, he wouldn't have cared. In any case, he had the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, so he didn't really care about resources. What he cared about was the team's name. Anti-Upheaval. He'd founded his own gang, Upheaval. This team was called Anti-Upheaval. Didn't that mean he wanted to wipe out their gang? Yi Zichen inwardly refused, but his gaze darkened. He viciously slapped the paper into Chen Guangfa's hands. "I'm joining. Give me the crystal card." Yi Zichen looked at the golden paper and saw that Yi Zichen had used his blood essence to write his name. "Here, you can have it." He flicked the card back into Yi Zichen's hands. Shui Mo stretched lazily, then patted Yi Zichen on the shoulder. "I'll be counting on you to recruit new members. You're overthinking things." Yi Zichen sat by the lotus pond like a lord, but Shui Mo didn't seem to mind at all. "That's fine. If you don't recruit new members, just wait for the wrath of the heavens." Before she'd even finished speaking, Shui Mo gestured for Chen Guangfa to hand over the application. "Look at the very bottom." Yi Zichen accepted the paper suspiciously, then read the last line. There was nothing particularly strange about it. Look carefully. The very bottom, the very bottom. As if she knew what he was thinking, Shwet Mo reminded him. Yi Zichen focused his gaze on the bottom of the paper. Only then did he realize that there was a line of tiny, almost indiscernible words. Chapter 12:21. Shao, who returned from the outside the Lightning Emperor's estate on the central divine mountain, a bolt of lightning pierced through the sky and landed in front of one of the courtyards in the mansion. The guards who were on guard inside the mansion were alerted, and they all rushed over the moment the light appeared. According to the Shao family's rules, anyone who wanted to enter had to enter through the main entrance. That bolt of lightning completely ignored the rules of the clan, which was why the guards were so vigilant. 6 teams of guards came from 6 different directions of the mansion. When they arrived, they saw a man covered in blood. His right arm had been chopped off, and there was a bloody hole the size of a bowl on his chest. He was half kneeling in front of the mansion's gate with his left hand on the ground. "Who's that?" The squad leaders exchanged glances, sending signals to each other with their eyes. They didn't rush forward. Instead, they tightened their encirclement around the bloody man. At that moment, the half-kneeling man suddenly moved. He simply straightened his shoulders, but the surrounding guards drew their weapons and stared vigilantly at the bloody man in front of the courtyard. "Take me back to my room." The bloody man spoke in an especially raspy voice. At the same time, he turned to the guards. After a long while, one of the guards finally sheathed his weapons and exclaimed in shock, "Elder Shao Hu." "What? That's Elder Shao Hu?" When the other guards heard this, they too sheathed their weapons and stared at the man. "It really is Elder Shao Hu." The guards swarmed over. When they saw the blood that still hadn't congealed on Shao Hu's body, their eyes brimmed with undisguised disbelief. Elder Shao, who was in charge of the discipline hall. Forget the Shao family, he was one of the most powerful figures in the entire God realm. But now, Elder Shao Hu, take me back to my room. As he spoke, Shao Hu coughed up a mouthful of blood. The surrounding guards didn't dare tarry. They hurriedly sent a few people to escort him back to his room. Quite a few even went to notify the other elders and Shao Yan. Within his room, the news of Shao Hu's severe injuries spread throughout the entire Lightning Emperor's residence in less than an hour. All the elders of the clan who were not allowed out of seclusion gathered in Shao Hu's room. On the bed, Shao Yan was personally healing her with his own divine power. Who could be so ruthless? The elders in the room whispered to each other. Shao Hu was the great elder of the Shao family's punishment hall. There was no one in the entire God realm who didn't know of his identity and status. More importantly, other people didn't know, but the elders all knew. Just a few years ago, Shao had broken through to become a ruler. Being able to cause the Dominator rank Shao Hu to be on the brink of death meant that the range he could lock onto was much smaller. Do you think it's the Northern Divine Mountain? I heard a few days ago that Zhao Qianhe of the Northern Divine Mountain got into an argument with Shao Hu. Although Shao Hu is a sovereign right now, if Zhao Qianhe really wants to kill him, she has the ability to do so. That's impossible. An elder disagreed. Zhao Qianhe's actions represent the Northern Divine Mountain. If she attacked Shao Hu, doesn't that mean the Sea of Innocence has designs on our Shao family? We're both from the Divine Mountain, so I don't think the Sea of Innocence would be so ruthless. Besides, it doesn't make sense that the Sea of Innocence is our Lightning Emperor's estate's enemy. Then who do you think it could be? There are only so many sovereigns in the God realm, and there are even fewer who could injure Shao Hu this badly. Don't be so narrow-minded. Is the God realm the only place with sovereigns? Don't Yao and demons have sovereigns too? If that's the case, the elders in the room fell silent. If it was the demons or Yao who'd injured Shao Hu, that would be a serious problem. Cough, cough. At this moment, Shao Hu, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, spat out a mouthful of black blood. Shao Yan, who'd been treating his injuries, retracted his divine power and dried the sweat on his forehead. Only then did he get off the bed. For the next few months, you should stay in the clan and focus on healing your wounds. Your injuries this time aren't light. You've even damaged your very essence. Furthermore, I can sense that there's some other kind of energy in your body that I can't remove with my own abilities. I'm afraid only my father can completely wipe it out. However, he's been elusive lately, so all I can do is make sure it doesn't spread. You should be careful to suppress it as well. Thank you for your concern, family head. Xiaohu panted weakly. The wound on his chest had already healed, but he still looked dispirited. Tiger, who did this to you? Did you get a good look at their faces? Said one of the elders in the room. They dared to injure a member of our lightning emperor's estate? Even if they're from one of the sacred lands, we still have to pay them a visit. This elder was clearly implying something. From his tone, it was obvious he was referring to Zhao Qianhe. Don't overthink things. It's not someone from the god realm, said Xiaohu, leaning against the edge of his bed. If it's not the god realm, then it's not a demon or Yao either. Xiaohu panted, then snorted and said, It's the outside. Why'd you go to the outside? All the elders, including Xiao Yin, were stunned. The outside referred to places that didn't belong to the upper three realms. The three realms had always avoided the outside because the people there were terrifyingly strong. Any one of them could cause the upper three realms a great deal of trouble. Unfortunately, the people of the outside seemed to be restricted by some sort of law. They could only wander the wastelands of the outer realms. They couldn't enter the upper three realms. There was another faction in the outside, a faction that transcended the gods, Yao, and demons. It was called the Witch Clan. Why did you go to the outside? Didn't I tell you to retrieve the Xinyuan sword? Why did the outside get involved? Asked Xiao Yin. I ran into them while retrieving the Xinyuan sword, said Xiao with great difficulty. On my way to retrieve the Xinyuan sword, I ran into an expert from the outside. He was the one who exiled me to the outside. I risked my life, gave up half my cultivation, and destroyed 20% of my soul before I managed to make it back. When he mentioned this, Xiaohu's eyes were filled with lingering fear. He didn't want to see that group of monsters that ate people without spitting out their bones a second time. But I didn't go to the outside for nothing. I discovered quite a bit of information we didn't know about before. Suddenly, Xiaohu's pale face broke into a smile. Also, although I didn't get the Xinyuan sword, I know who has it now. I also know about the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. What? The Yao Ceiling Pagoda? Everyone in the room was shocked. Could it be that the Yao Ceiling Pagoda is with that outsider? Chapter 1222. Recruiting students. There was still some time before Skyspan Academy officially opened, and new student registrations were past their peak. Right now, most of the students were looking to join new student societies, or they were looking to find a good society to join. Yi Zichen sat with his straw hat against a tree trunk in a rather shabby-looking society recruitment office under the shade of a tree. Achoo! Yi Zichen rubbed his nose, then lifted his straw hat. Who's bad-mouthing me behind my back? Yi Zichen's life had been miserable over the past few days. Recruiting wasn't something just anyone could do. It didn't matter how strong or talented the new students were. As long as they were alive, countless factions would fight over them. In the first few days, he'd been able to swindle a few newcomers, but now they'd all learned their lesson. All of them were waiting for the right price, and would join whichever society offered the most benefits. Yi Zichen wasn't the type to take the initiative, so few people showed up at his booth. I've really fallen into a trap. Yi Zichen leaned against the tree and lowered his head. He never would have guessed Xuemo would play tricks on him. It was impossible for him to break the contract. He could feel that there was a law restricting him. But it was strange. Based on what Yi Zichen learned, anti-upheaval used to be the strongest student society in Skyspan Academy. At its peak, even if the other top 5 student societies joined forces, they'd find it difficult to shake their position. Although some changes had occurred, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Why was it that as soon as they saw anti-upheaval's recruitment booth, they scurried away as if they'd seen the plague? I don't get it. Yi Zichen pulled his hat off, then leaned back against the tree to take a nap. This was how he'd been for the past few days. He'd come early in the morning to recruit new students, then slept until the wee hours of the morning, then went back to sleep. As for the results of the past few days, nothing. Russell. Yi Zichen's ears twitched. At his level, he could hear even the smallest sound. Just now, he'd clearly heard someone approaching. He lifted his hat, and, as expected, there really was someone standing in front of him. He recognized this person. It was Bao Jingwu, the one who'd shamelessly tried to recruit him. Captain Bao, how did you find the time to come visit? Yi Zichen patted the dust off his face and stood up. The relationship between our two families isn't too harmonious. If that big sister from your 6th Regiment sees this, you won't have a good time. Bao Jingwu rubbed his hands and smiled coyly at Yi Zichen. Brother Yi, I'll cut to the chase. Actually, I came here because platoon leader's son told me to. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. She told you to come? Bao Jingwu nodded and said, our leader told me to ask you if you're interested in joining the Grizzly Bear Regiment. As long as you come, she can promise to give you the position of vice captain, as well as the benefits that only Sky Supremes can enjoy. Whoa. Yi Zichen could tell from Bao Jingwu's eyes that he was actually rather jealous. Speaking of which, it made sense. A new student like him, who hadn't made any contributions to the team, would be directly promoted to vice team leader and enjoy the benefits of a heavenly supreme. Anyone would be jealous if they were in his shoes. However, Yi Zichen couldn't understand why Sun Jialing would do that. Was it because she wanted to fight Shui Mo? If that was the case, battles between women were truly terrifying. Her offer was tempting, but Yi Zichen had already joined Anti-Upheaval, so he could only refuse. I'm sorry, but I've joined Anti-Upheaval. With that, he flashed his emblem. Anti-Upheaval's emblem was a dove. Yi Zichen had asked Shun Guangfa why he'd chosen it, but he'd said that Anti-Upheaval's mission was to pacify war, and the dove represented peace. Bao Jingwu's eyes flashed with a hint of anxiety. Brother Yi, even if you join, you can still leave. Anti-Upheaval is a thing of the past. Our Grizzly Bear Society is the strongest society in the Academy. You won't regret joining us, so come on. I'm not going. Yi Zichen shrugged. Brother Yi. To his surprise, Bao Jingwu grabbed Yi Zichen's arm and looked like he was about to cry. I'm begging you. Platoon leader's son gave me an absolute order to recruit you into our society. If you don't come, I won't be able to keep my position. I might even have to expel the Grizzly Bear Society. Isn't that perfect? Why don't you just join me? Yi Zichen patted Bao Jingwu on the shoulder and welcomed him warmly. Hurry up and leave. Join our Anti-Upheaval Society. Forget about being a squad leader. I'll even make you a squad leader. Besides, think about it. Although Anti-Upheaval has fallen from grace, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. At the end of the day, our society still has more resources than other societies. The Grizzly Bear Society's momentum is indeed fierce. We have a lot of resources, but we have a lot of people, right? No matter how many resources we have, if we split them evenly among everyone, how much would there be? Join me, on the other hand, is different. We only have a few people, so you'll definitely get more resources than the Grizzly Bear Society. Think about it. When you get home or meet your friends, Anti-Upheaval's squad leader title will sound better than Grizzly Bear Society's, won't it? Inexplicably, Bao Jingwu's expression softened. Yi Zichen adhered to the principle of dragging one down with him, if he could. Join me. The benefits will be unimaginable. Little bro, I asked him to recruit you. I didn't ask you to recruit him. At that moment, a delicate fragrance wafted through the air. Yi Zichen looked in the direction of the fragrance and saw Sun Jialing swaying her hips as she walked past. She was absolutely a stunner. Whether it was her figure, her looks, or her gaze, she could make countless men fall to their knees. As she walked, who knew how many men stared at her? By now, she'd clearly recovered from her panic. She fiddled with her hair, pursed her lips, and stood less than half a meter away from Yi Zichen. Bao Jingwu greeted her. Platoon leader, Bao Jingwu, you're really something. If I hadn't come, would you have really left the society? Sun Jialing crossed her arms and smiled at Bao Jingwu. And to think I cared so much about you. Platoon leader, what about you? Su Jialing said harshly. After scolding Bao Jingwu, she turned to Yi Zichen and said, Little bro, it's immoral of you to poach my people. Then is it immoral of you to poach me? I just told him to tell me the truth. If you join me, you'll gain far more than if you joined Anti-Upheaval. Besides, Does poaching people count as poaching? Chapter 1223. The Great Tycoon Yi. Was this supposed to be called happiness? Bao Jingwu's talent was mediocre. He'd only become a squad leader in the Grizzly Bear Society because of his years of hard work. He'd been at Skyspan Academy for so long, but he'd never received such treatment. Two of the top student societies were fighting over him. Although anti-upheaval was no longer as glorious as it once was, it was still one of the top 5 student societies. Ah, you're really funny. Sun Jialing glanced coolly at Yi Zichen, then looked him up and down disdainfully. You're trying to poach a member of the Grizzly Bear Society right in front of me? Don't you know how stupid you are? Everyone in Skyspan Academy knows what joining the Grizzly Bear Society means. More than 60% of the Academy's students do everything in their power to join us. Do you really think a few words from you will be enough to convince him to give up on us and join anti-upheaval? Her confidence wasn't baseless. The Grizzly Bear Society was powerful, and that didn't even take into account the resources the Academy provided. With the number of people in their society, they would also be able to obtain a lot of resources and benefits outside. Although most of the benefits went to the upper echelons of society, the Grizzly Bear Society was second to none in terms of member welfare. More importantly, joining the Grizzly Bear Society was a matter of face. Even the most ordinary of members, so long as they wore the Grizzly Bear Society's emblem, few people on the northern Divine Mountain would dare offend them. The greatness of their power also reflected their own safety. Compared to their lives, the society's welfare was insignificant. Yi Zichen's words had shaken Bao Jingwu, but after a moment's thought, he came to a realization. It was true that he wasn't well-liked in the Grizzly Bear Society, but if he joined anti-upheaval, it wouldn't just be the Grizzly Bear Society's higher-ups ignoring him. Besides, Yi Zichen said anti-upheaval had a lot of benefits. What benefits? He didn't see them. Sensing that Bao Jingwu's expression had loosened, Sun Jialing also smiled confidently as she crossed her arms and gently lifted up the pair of hot spots. If you didn't join me, all I can say is that it's a pity. But if you want to poach someone from me, you can forget about it. There's only a few days left until the welcoming ceremony. Please go back and tell Shui Mo not to forget to perform naked on the day of the welcoming ceremony. I believe that her appearance will make the atmosphere of the welcome party even more fiery, and there will be many people in the academy who will be happy to see this scene. Perform naked? This was probably the bet between Shui Mo and Sun Jialing. He really didn't expect that the bet between the two of them would be so big. Even though Shui Mo had set him up, their relationship wasn't as harmonious as he'd imagined. But for better or worse, he was now a member of anti-upheaval. If the president were to perform naked, that would be far too embarrassing. As a member of anti-upheaval, he'd be too embarrassed to show his face in Skyspan Academy again. Platoon Leader Sun, do you really think I won't be able to poach them away? Why don't you try? Sun Jialing pursed her lips and said, if you want to poach him, you should at least give him a bargaining chip that will make his heart palpitate. You can't just give him a pie in the sky. We're not babbling children. What we care about is the benefits that we can get. Don't you want to eat it? That's right. Yi Zichen nodded. See, you admit it too. Do you still think it's possible? In terms of benefits, our Grizzly Bear Society is far superior to anti-upheaval, isn't it? Of course, if we split the resources according to 100 people, our Grizzly Bear Society is inferior. But 100 people isn't enough to determine victory or defeat. Shui Mo, in anti-upheaval, you've already lost. TCH. Yi Zichen rubbed his hands together. He couldn't help but click his tongue. It seemed Sun Jialing wasn't the brainless sort. Although she was impulsive sometimes, she was a little crafty when it came to scheming. You're right. Yi Zichen couldn't find any words to refute her, so he just smiled and nodded. He rubbed his head with his right hand, and his expression was one of helplessness and bewilderment. Everyone could tell that he was worried. Sun Jialing's smile deepened. The moment Shui Mo agreed to the bet, the outcome was already decided. If she had to blame someone, she could only blame herself for letting her emotions get the better of her. She couldn't help but think back to how Shui Mo had threatened to kill her. In that instant, she had to admit that she was truly afraid. You want to fight me? Just wait until you embarrass yourself at the welcoming ceremony in 3 days. You should think about it carefully. Sun Jialing hid her cold smile, then crossed her arms and laughed. In the end, will you quit and join the Grizzly Bear Society, or will you stay with anti-upheaval and suffer humiliation? Of course, I won't hold it against you for what you said just now. I'm a magnanimous person. The doors of the Grizzly Bear Society will always be open to you. I appreciate your good intentions, but there's no need for me to join your society. At that moment, Yi Zichen rubbed his ring and smiled. Not only am I not going, but I'm also going to poach anti-upheaval's people. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, anti-upheaval's shabby recruitment office exploded with a loud bang. The sound drew everyone's attention. Bao Jingwu and Sun Jialing, who were the closest to Yi Zichen, were dumbfounded. Pills, treasures, talismans. An entire mountain. Treasures flashed with multicolored light, illuminating the entire area. Countless pill bottles popped open, and the fragrance of medicine permeated the air for thousands of miles. This is one of the perks of joining our anti-upheaval society. Yi Zichen, who'd finally gotten everything out of the way, smiled calmly. He looked at Sun Jialing's dumbfounded expression, then turned to Bao Jingwu. He flicked a bottle of supreme pills into his hand. The bottle felt cool to the touch. Bao Jingwu, who'd been stunned by this mountain of priceless treasures, finally came to his senses. He looked at his hand and saw that it was a bottle of supreme pills. Gulp. The instant he saw the pills, Bao Jingwu gulped. Supreme pills. If an Earth Supreme expert took them, they'd instantly increase their strength by a level. Only a divine-grade pill refiner could refine them. Although they were the lowest of all divine-grade pills, they weren't something ordinary people could get their hands on. If such a pill was placed in an auction house, it would fetch a high price of at least $1 million. He glanced at the mountain of supreme pills. There were no fewer than 10,000 bottles. Just the value of these pills alone was more than the Grizzly Bear Society's annual supply. Furthermore, there weren't just pills here. There were weapons, armor, talismans. Who said the Anti-Upheaval Society was in dire straits? Based on this mountain of treasures, Bao Jingwu would fight anyone who dared say that. At that moment, Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows at Bao Jingwu with a smile. Chapter 1224. Swarm over, are you coming? Two simple words shattered all of Bao Jingwu's attachment to the Grizzly Bear Society. He'd been invisible in the Grizzly Bear Society to begin with. Why had he persisted? In terms of fame, Anti-Upheaval was one of the top 5 student societies. Even though they were in dire straits, he had faith in Anti-Upheaval's resources. He firmly believed that they could regain their former glory. Come. Bao Jingwu steeled his resolve, tore the Grizzly Bear Society emblem to shreds, clutched the supreme pill, and walked up to Yi Zichen. Platoon Leader Yi, please take care of me in the future. As he spoke, he kept looking at the pile of treasures and kept swallowing his saliva. Stop looking. Work hard for anti-upheaval, and you'll be rewarded handsomely. Yi Zichen patted Bao Jingwu on the shoulder. It just so happens that anti-upheaval is still in the midst of development. I don't have many subordinates, so I won't give you an empty position. Just be my assistant. All right. Bao Jingwu nodded without even thinking about it. Yi Zichen was now in charge of finances. Being his assistant was absolutely better than any other position. Bao Jingwu, you actually quit, screamed Sun Jialing. She was still in shock. That's right, I quit, snorted Bao Jingwu. You'll regret this sooner or later, you short-sighted bastard. That's just anti-upheaval's trump card. They brought it all out to fight to the death. You really did fall for it. Once they run out, what will you do? This is what I should be thinking about, not what you should be thinking about. Sensing Bao Jingwu's icy gaze, Sun Jialing's fingers trembled uncontrollably. She glared at Bao Jingwu, then at Yi Zichen. All right, let's see just how many people you can recruit with this. All right. Yi Zichen couldn't be bothered to argue with him. He waved him off. Don't get in the way. I'm going to start recruiting. With that, he closed his eyes, gathered his energy in his dantian, and circulated his divine power. Anti-upheaval is recruiting. Any Grizzly Bear Society member who leaves to join us will get a supreme pill. When Yi Zichen took out the mountain of treasure, he'd already attracted quite a bit of attention. Now that he had shouted, countless freshmen and seniors immediately rushed to this place. Seeing the dazzling array of treasures, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Is what you just said true? You'll give the Grizzly Bear Society a supreme pill for joining you? The one who spoke was a member of the Grizzly Bear Society. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he spoke in a probing tone. Of course, so long as you enter, the supreme pill is yours, said Yi Zichen. The member who had inquired didn't say much. He tore up the Grizzly Bear Society's emblem and signed the agreement to join the society. When he put down his brush, a pill fell into his hand. Stand behind me. I'll bring you to our club's headquarters tonight. The freshmen who received the supreme elixir were filled with disbelief even when they held the elixir in their hands. They nodded their heads blankly and ran over. He really gave them the supreme elixir. In an instant, the onlookers exploded. Every member of the Grizzly Bear Society tore up their logos and scrambled to sign their application. Sun Jialing, the leader of the 6th Grizzly Bear Society, turned purple. She wanted to protest, but in the face of the temptation of the supreme elixir, the power of her words was negligible. All right, just you wait. Sun Jialing glared viciously at Yi Zichen, then pushed past the red-eyed freshman and left. In response, Yi Zichen simply pressed his lips into a smile. He didn't take it to heart at all. Don't be in such a rush. Take your time. Everyone has a share. Anti-Upheaval's headquarters. Shui Mo sat by the lotus pond. She held a transmission device in her hands and stared intently at it. Should I talk to my family or not? Shui Mo muttered to herself. She'd been in that position for roughly an hour. From her expression, it was clear that she was conflicted. If I talk, I'll lose face, but if I don't, I'll definitely lose. She fiddled with the transmission device, and the struggle on her face grew more and more obvious. Senior apprentice sister. At that moment, Chun Guangfa hurried over from the lotus pond. Shui Mo put away the transmission device, turned around, and frowned. What is it? Yi Zichen? What's wrong with him? Didn't I tell him to go recruit new members? The results must be miserable. Shui Mo could picture it. In terms of fame, they couldn't compare to the other 4 noble societies, and in terms of resources, they couldn't even begin to compare. That guy's too fierce. After a while, Chun Guangfa gulped and shouted, not only did he recruit new members, but he's also poaching members of the Grizzly Bear Society. In less than an hour, more than 1,000 Grizzly Bear Society members have left to join us. How'd he do it? Shui Mo didn't understand. Come with me and you'll understand. This Yi Zichen is too ruthless. When I ran into Sun Jialing just now, her face turned green with anger. All right, let's go take a look. Within an hour, news of the Grizzly Bear Society members joining Anti-Upheaval and receiving a supreme pill spread throughout Skyspan Academy. More and more Grizzly Bear Society members hurried over. In an instant, the other societies' recruitment centers were pitifully shabby, while Yi Zichen's was bustling with activity. Don't rush, don't rush. Take your time. Everyone has a share. As long as you're a member of the Grizzly Bear Society, it doesn't matter if you're a newcomer or an old member. You can join Anti-Upheaval. The previously recruited members had already begun to sort things out. The places where they filled in the application forms were also managed in an orderly manner. Of course, most of the people who left were new members. Old members all had accumulated points. Leaving meant that all their accumulated points would disappear. Quite a few people chose to watch from the sidelines. Anti-Upheaval's resources were truly frightening, but that was only for now. They had to consider whether or not they'd have enough resources to support them in the future. Hey bro, what about those of us from other societies or those who haven't joined yet? Are there any benefits? Asked one of the onlookers. Their hearts itched. That was a supreme pill they were talking about. Tossing it out like it didn't cost anything. Who wouldn't be tempted? To tell the truth, some of them had considered trying to steal it, but since they were in Skyspan Academy, they didn't dare act rashly. Look at my poor memory. I almost forgot. Just now, They've been so focused on suppressing Sun Jialing's arrogance that they'd forgotten about the other societies and those who hadn't. Those from other societies or those who haven't joined yet. 6-stage Earth Supremes and above can receive 1 Aureus, while 6-stage and below can receive 100 Aureus. No way. That's too much of a difference. Someone yelled. Chapter 1225. People nicknamed Excavator, Senior Apprentice Sister, wait for me. Shui Mo had just arrived from Anti-Upheaval's headquarters, so Chun Guangfa had no choice but to chase after her and shout for her. When she arrived at the Society recruitment office, she was greeted by the sight of Anti-Upheaval's entrance, which was packed to the brim with people. Make way. Shui Mo stood at the back of the crowd. The new and old students waiting to join couldn't help but frown and look back. When they saw that it was Shui Mo, they hurriedly smiled and made way for her. Don't be in such a rush. Let's take it slow. Yi Zichen was busy dealing with the surrounding students, so he hadn't noticed Shui Mo's arrival. Shui Mo didn't make a sound either. She simply stared at the mountain of treasure in a daze. Society head. Bao Jingwu glanced at Shui Mo out of the corner of his eye. As soon as she spoke, all of Anti-Upheaval's members straightened their backs and respectfully called out, Society head. Yi Zichen turned around and couldn't help but arch his brows. You're here. You? When she saw his smile, Shui Mo furrowed her brows, unable to speak for a long while. Her furrowed brows were most likely directed at the mountain of treasure. She'd received Yi Zichen's crystal car before, so she knew exactly how long he'd been in the God Realm. How could a newbie who just entered the God Realm have so many resources? Don't look so surprised. We're recruiting new members for your Anti-Upheaval Society, said Yi Zichen with a smile. Yi Zichen smiled at all the new and old students around him, then walked up to Shui Mo and deliberately lowered his voice. Since you're here, and you're our society's president, shouldn't you say something? Shui Mo's expression froze for a moment. Then she beamed. Welcome, everyone, to our Anti-Upheaval Society. Although Anti-Upheaval has some bad memories, I, Shui Mo, promise you that I won't let you down. You'll feel honored to join us. She was already a stunning beauty, but as soon as she set aside her icy expression, quite a few of the surrounding male students went wild. This was especially true for the new students. They'd never joined Anti-Upheaval before, but they'd only heard bad things about the group. They'd had no idea their society head was such a beautiful woman. In the blink of an eye, Anti-Upheaval's number of new recruits increased by several tenths. Hearing Shui Mo's call, Yi Zichen smiled and said, Since the leader has said so, what's there to hesitate about? Anti-Upheaval welcomes you all to join us. With that, Yi Zichen handed the task of recruiting new members over to Chun Guangfa and the others. There was no longer any need for them to go out and drag people into the group. All they had to do was record them down and have them sign their contracts. As for himself, he grabbed Shui Mo's arm and pulled her away. Shui Mo really did have a lot of questions she wanted to ask, so she smiled at them, then left with Yi Zichen. Isn't it time to explain things to me? The two of them walked over to a secluded spot. Coincidentally, there was a rock garden and a fountain nearby. Shui Mo crossed her arms and stood by the fountain, staring intently at Yi Zichen. Explain to you? There must be something wrong with your brain. Yi Zichen said, You've just arrived here, so why do you have so many resources? Don't you think you should explain it to me? Who do you think you are? Yi Zichen rolled his eyes at her in exasperation. I'm recruiting new members for you. You're quite a busybody, but are you sure it's reasonable to recruit new members like this? Yi Zichen had long since anticipated Shui Mo's worries. You don't need to worry about that. I tampered with the application forms. Although it wasn't very benevolent of me, as long as they sign up, they can forget about running away. Oh, right? I'm telling you, you have to return all the resources I've given you. Got it. Shui Mo nodded. She agreed so easily. Yi Zichen hadn't expected her to agree. Don't look at me like that. As the society head, recruiting new members is my problem to begin with. You've just joined, so there's no reason for me to make you pay out of your own pocket. However, there's something I need to warn you about. I've already set my sights on you. You'd best not be a spy sent here by some other race or faction. Otherwise, if I find out, you know the consequences. Shuemo's eyes flashed with cold light. Yi Zichen shrugged indifferently. His current behavior was indeed suspicious. Time revealed a man's heart, and there was nothing for him to be afraid of. I'll leave the recruitment to you. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll be on my way first. He waved at Shui Mo. Mo couldn't help but frown. Where are you going? To poach people. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The welcoming ceremony hadn't even begun, but Yi Zichen, a new student, was already known to everyone at Skyspan Academy. The people in the academy even gave him a very fitting nickname, Excavator. Over the past 3 days, he'd met with the Grizzly Bear Society's 5 platoon leaders in private, as well as over 30 flag bearers. No one knew what he'd promised them, but 2 platoon leaders and over 20 flag bearers had left the Grizzly Bear Society. Not only did the Grizzly Bear Society not grow stronger, but it actually suffered a sharp decline. Anti-Upheaval, on the other hand, had over 100,000 members, including over 3,000 Sky Supremes. They'd even split into 2 squadrons, each led by the 2 leaders who'd left the Grizzly Bear Society. This was one of their requirements for joining Anti-Upheaval. As for the rest, no one knew. Here, these are the resources you used up during the recruitment process. You used up far too many Supreme pills, so I couldn't give you all of them in one go. So I used other materials to make up for it. That evening, Shui Mo walked into Yi Zichen's room in her scholarly attire, a ring in her hand. Ordinary members had to live in dormitories. Although Skyspan Academy was large enough, there was no way every student could have their own place. In the society, only the leaders could have their own rooms in the society. However, there were also a few leaders and presidents who were squeezed in the same house. All right, just put on the table. Yi Zichen didn't even look back as he straightened his clothes in front of a bronze mirror. Tonight was the welcoming ceremony, so he had to dress decently. Otherwise, how could he flirt with the girls of the academy? This wasn't just nonsense. In the past few days, Yi Zichen had gained quite a few female fans. Aside from Anti-Upheaval's benefits, in terms of looks alone, the male students had come for Shui Mo, and the female students were here for Yi Zichen. Isn't it just a welcoming ceremony? Why make it so grand? Said Shui Mo speechlessly. Chapter 1226. Actually, I'm a peerless genius. Oh, Brother Yi, you went out of your way to dress up? A man suddenly appeared in the mirror. He was tall and muscular, with dark skin and a square face. He was dressed casually in martial attire. This was the 2nd platoon leader Yi Zichen had poached from the Grizzly Bear Society, Li Hu. He was an 8th-stage Sky Supreme and ranked in the top 100 of the entire academy. Brother Yi, you have fans. Can you not dress a little more decently? At this moment, a pretty boy with red lips and white teeth appeared in the room. Don't be fooled by his feminine looks, but he used to be the platoon leader of the Grizzly Bear Society. He was now the leader of Anti-Upheaval's 1st platoon. His name was Luo Zi, and he was also an 8th-stage Sky Supreme. His ranking was even higher than Li Hu's. Hey, are you jealous? Yi Zichen, who'd been tidying up his clothes, turned around. He was wearing a black robe with Anti-Upheaval's insignia on the right side of his chest. The instant he turned around, Shui Mo blushed inexplicably and averted her gaze. Forget about me. What I pursue is the Supreme Tao. I don't have time to care about those mediocre women, Luo Zi said arrogantly. Brother Yi, I suggest that you don't waste too much energy in this area. What kind of person do you take me for? I'm dressed like this in the hopes that, on account of my attire, the Grizzly Bear Society's leader will go easy on me and not beat me up too badly. Yi Zichen shrugged. Pang Wan, Luo Zi, and Li Hu's expressions were solemn. They knew exactly what Yi Zichen was trying to say. The Grizzly Bear Society had suffered disastrous losses at the start of school, and it was all because of Yi Zichen, the excavator. Pang Wan would absolutely hate him to the core. That's why you invited us to the welcoming ceremony with you, Brother Yi. Of course, I poached you too and risked losing my head. If the 2 of you just took a nap and ate the resources I gave you, then left me to take the blame, what would I do? Yi Zichen arched his brows. Since we're here, we're Anti-Upheaval's people. Even if you hadn't asked us, we would have gone with you, but Li Hu wanted to say something but hesitated, but Luo Zi helped him finish what he wanted to say. If Pang Wan really wants to attack you, we won't be able to stop him even if we wanted to. Li Hu nodded and said, Luo Zi is right. Pang Wan has been a half-step celestial being for a long time. I'm afraid that in the entire academy, only Sword Immortal Jiang Wei can fight him. Yi Zichen understood all of this, but he pursed his lips into a smile. That's why I called our society head over. What's wrong with me? I just became a Sky Supreme. I'm not even as strong as Luo Zi. Li Hu. It's fine. In any case, you're the leader of anti-upheaval. For your sake, Pang Wan wouldn't dare do anything to me. Don't you think so? Yi Zichen's gaze seemed to carry a deeper meaning. Shui Mo didn't know what he was trying to say, but she didn't want to linger under his gaze for too long. All right, the welcome ceremony is about to begin. Let's hurry over. Skyspan Academy's welcoming ceremony wasn't anything special. Senior brothers and sisters would say a few meaningless things on stage, and the Academy's teachers would say a few meaningless things. After that, there would be assigned classes, and after that, it was free time. It's over just like that. Yi Zichen couldn't help but arch his brows as he watched the teachers leave. What else do you think? Tens of millions of new students will arrive at the start of the semester. Did you really think the Academy would hold a welcoming ceremony for all of you? Shui Mo rolled her eyes speechlessly. In truth, the most important part of the welcoming ceremony is free time. Some geniuses want to gain the attention of the Academy and society and get the best resources. This is their best chance to show off. As expected, before Shui Mo could even finish speaking, one of the new students leaped onto the stage, took out a crystal card, and showed the teachers on the stage the aptitude evaluation they'd received after arriving in the God Realm. Everyone with talent at the elite level was assigned to the elite class, while geniuses were assigned to the gifted class. Those below the elite level were admitted as ordinary students. However, even after watching for a long while, Yi Zichen didn't see a single peerless genius. Hey, Society Head Shui, how do you classify aptitude? Asked Yi Zichen. Mediocre, ordinary, talented, elite, genius, saint, and peerless genius. Saint-level talent is guaranteed to reach the diviner level. As for peerless geniuses, the God Realm hasn't seen one in tens of thousands of years. Rumor has it that all peerless geniuses become rulers. Shui Mo's eyes brimmed with yearning. Then she arched her brows. Why are you asking all this? Hey, what level are you? Screw off. Am I that bad? If I told you I was a genius, would you believe me? Yi Zichen crossed his arms and snorted. You? Shui Mo was filled with disbelief. I knew you wouldn't believe me. I'll tell you the truth. I'm actually a peerless genius. Oh, Shui Mo didn't even look him in the eye. Instead, she simply said, oh, then glanced at Li Hu and Luo Zi. Let's go. Let's let this peerless genius enjoy his time here. Li Hu and Luo Zi nodded, then left. Yi Zichen hurried after them. What are you doing? You don't believe me? Brother Yi, stop dreaming. Wake up. We're all mortals. What's the point of thinking about all that nonsense? As long as we work hard, we'll even have a chance of becoming a diviner or a ruler. Li Hu patted him on the shoulder. Yi Zichen said in an aggrieved tone, I really am. It's just that I prefer to keep a low profile. I don't want the Academy to know. We know. We're all peerless geniuses too. We don't want the Academy to know, said Luo Zi, trying to hide the truth. Hey, you guys, just you wait. I'll show you. Yi Zichen was getting a little impatient, so he pulled out his crystal card. Shui Mo and the others, however, crossed their arms. Their expressions seemed to say, keep pretending. Keep pretending. Society Head Shui. I can't believe we run into each other here. At that moment, they heard a chuckle from behind them. They turned around and saw Pang Zheng leading the Grizzly Bear Society's platoon leaders over. Yi Zichen stopped taking out his crystal card and stared intently at them. Li Hu Luo Zi, not bad. You've just joined anti-upheaval, yet you're already chatting and laughing. It's really the society head's fault for raising two ingrates like you. The speaker was the first platoon leader of the Grizzly Bear Society, Chun Enian. Aside from Pang Zheng, he was anti-upheaval's strongest expert. He was a ninth-stage Sky Supreme, and the first platoon leader Yi Zichen had met. However, Chen Yinian had cursed him out and even kicked him twice. This was our own choice. Besides, we enjoyed the Grizzly Bear Society's resources and contributed to it, snorted Li Hu. You still have the nerve to say that. Chen Yinian's expression darkened, and he took a step forward. Chapter 12:27. Sincerity. There were countless geniuses and geniuses at the welcoming party. Practically everyone's attention was on these geniuses, so Yi Zichen's small clash didn't seem to attract anyone's attention. The atmosphere was somewhat tense. Yi Zichen pursed his lips into a smile, then walked to the center. What's going on? Everyone has their own ambitions. Although Brother Luo and Brother Li used to be members of the Grizzly Bears, it doesn't mean that they'll be your people forever, right? You brat, you really dared to come to the welcome party. Chen Yinian raised a finger and cursed. Why can't I come? I'm also a student of Skyspan Academy. Yi Zichen shrugged, then stared coldly at Chen Yinian's finger. I really hate it when people point at me. You're quite unyielding. Not only did you poach our Grizzly Bears people, but you still dare to speak to us like this? I'm not only pointing at you, I'm also going to hit you. As he spoke, Chen Yinian suddenly clenched his fists. Luo Zi and Li Hu suddenly took a step forward, the divine power in their bodies silently circulating. Yi Zichen's pupils constricted. He was on full alert, but his gaze fell on Pang Zheng. Chen Yinian was only the commander of the Grizzly Bear Regiment. Whether or not he would take action depended on Pang Zheng's decision. At that moment, the people from the welcoming party also gradually noticed Yi Zichen's situation. Many people began to look over, and the teacher on the podium also looked over. Pang Zheng, what are you guys doing? One of the teachers said. In the face of the teacher's questioning, Pang Zheng's gaze locked with Yi Zichen's. As they stared at each other, no one took even half a step back. Soon after, a smile appeared on the corner of Pang Zheng's mouth. There's nothing wrong with us. You can continue with your work. Pang Zheng bowed to the teacher in the manner of a student. His gaze turned solemn again as he spoke to Chen Yinian. Come back in a year. When Chen Yinian heard this, he retreated to Pang Zheng's side. Luo Zi and Li Hu followed suit, then returned to Yi Zichen's side. When I saw Brother Yi that day, I felt that Brother Ye's bearing was extraordinary. These past few days, this Pang has personally experienced Brother Ye's brilliant moves. The expert was naturally referring to Yi Zichen, the excavator. The withdrawal of 2 platoon leaders and dozens of flag bearers had affected the Grizzly Bear Regiment greatly. In particular, more than 20% of the ordinary members had left the Grizzly Bear Society, causing its overall strength to plummet. On the outside, Pang Zheng appeared to be indifferent to everything, and he did not have a strong desire for power. However, he couldn't really be indifferent to this kind of loss. President Pang, you're exaggerating. Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile. Then his gaze landed on Sun Jialing. Leader Sun, it seems like you've lost the bet with our president. Sun Jialing had lost the bet. According to the agreement, she was supposed to take off all her clothes and give a unique performance in this welcome party. But until now, she had not fulfilled the conditions of the bet. Hearing Yi Zichen mention it, Sun Jialing lowered her head. With a warm smile, Pang Zheng gently patted Sun Jialing's shoulder and said, I'm here because of the bet between my cousin and President Shui. She's your cousin? Yi Zichen arched his brows. It wasn't just him. Not even the older students knew of Pang Zheng and Sun Jialing's relationship. No wonder she'd become the Grizzly Bear Society's leader. Previously, they'd thought she'd gotten her position by sleeping with them. She's my cousin. Pang Zheng nodded and said, I've heard about the bet between Jia Ling and President Shui. Jia Ling indeed lost the bet. However, the terms of the bet are a bit harsh for a girl. Girls care a lot about their reputations. How will she face the world if she performs nude in front of the academy? How interesting, sneered Shuemo. Sun Jialing was the one who set up the bet. Now that she's lost, she says it's bad for her reputation. If I were to lose, I wonder if President Pang would still say these words in such a righteous manner. President Shui, I came to negotiate with you in good faith. Pang Zheng's gaze darkened. Then why don't you tell us your sincerity? Said Shuemo. how about we forget about the bet? In truth, President Shui, even if you won, it wouldn't be all that glorious, would it? You want to poach people from our grizzly bear society? If we forget about this, I won't hold it against you for poaching people, said Pang Zheng. Wow, that's a lot of sincerity, said Yi Zichen. Then what do you want? I've already given you enough face by coming here. Otherwise, even if I hadn't come looking for you, Jialing wouldn't fulfill her end of the bet. What could you do? Pang Zheng laughed loftily. Do you really think you can do anything to our grizzly bear society with just a few of you? Or rather, do you want to provoke my Northwest Pang family? Society head Pang, your public persona has crumbled, laughed Yi Zichen. In the past, Pang Zheng had always been polite and humble, never fighting for power. His words just now were completely at odds with his usual demeanor. Is the Pang family really that powerful? In the face of Pang Zheng's threat, Shui Mo simply rubbed her nose, a hint of playfulness in her eyes. When he saw her indifference, Pang Zheng's heart sank. So, she really was from there. The Northwest Pang family's influence on the northern Divine Mountain couldn't be underestimated, but compared to the people from there was no comparison at all. Was she really from there? Pang Zheng's mind raced. After a while, he sighed. Society head Shui, what do you want to do? It was better to be safe than sorry. If Shui Mo really was from there and provoked him, the Northwest Pang family wouldn't even be a match for her. Yi Zichen, what do you think we should do? Shui Mo tilted her head. If you ask me, I naturally want platoon leader Sun to fulfill her end of the bet. Yi Zichen didn't even try to hide his gaze as he glanced at Sun Jialing's private parts. That's a benefit for all students. Just as Pang Zheng's expression changed, Yi Zichen changed the topic. But for better or worse, she's still society head Pang's cousin. Even if I don't give her face, I have to give her face. Otherwise, what if he orders his family to kill me? I'm just a nobody. I can't afford to provoke that. Northwest Pang family, right? That's right, that's right. They're such a big family. Just mentioning their name makes my legs go weak. This was obvious mockery. Shui Mo and the others couldn't help but laugh. Pang Zheng's face was ashen, but given Shui Mo's unknown background, he could only clench his fists and endure. Chapter 1228. Your priceless Pang Zheng grabbed the jade slip, then glanced at Yi Zichen. From the way he'd taken it out, it was clear that he'd come prepared. He'd calculated that Yi Zichen would eventually give in and use this method to end things. Perhaps he wasn't 100% sure, but anyone who'd thought this far ahead was no ordinary person. Pang Zheng glanced coolly at Yi Zichen, then probed the jade slip with his divine sense. That's impossible. Pang Zheng didn't even look at it. After a single glance, he rejected the jade slip's offer of compensation. Society head Pang, what do you mean? Asked Yi Zichen. You're asking for too much. How much? Yi Zichen pointed at the jade slip, then walked up to her. The compensation is based on society head Shui and society head Pang statuses. Given our statuses, it's reasonable to offer compensation, as well as compensation for society head Shui's psychological damage and damage to our reputation. This is a fair deal, no haggling. Psychological damage? Damage to our reputation? Pang Zheng's eyes widened. Society head Shui wanted to see Sun Jialing strip naked. Now that she can't see it, she'll naturally suffer a psychological blow. Of course, she has to compensate. Her reputation is even simpler. Society head Shui has always been a man of his word. Now, for society head Pang's sake, she's given up on having Sun Jialing strip naked. Isn't that bad for society head Shui's reputation? Don't go too far. It's you. Don't go too far. Yi Zichen's expression instantly darkened. Then he rubbed his ear with a smile. He rubbed his ear and laughed. Do you know who you're talking to? Don't forget whose territory your Pang family is based on. Either pay up or hurry up and strip. We don't have much time to waste on you. Under Yi Zichen's icy gaze, Pang Zheng's heart sank. He clenched his fists and forcibly suppressed his anger, then re-examined the compensation. I don't have that much on hand right now. Give me some time to prepare. An hour? Don't tell me it's not enough. Given society head Pang's status, an hour is more than enough. Pang Zheng, all right. Sure enough, within an hour, a few members of the Grizzly Bear Society arrived and handed Pang Zheng a ring and 3 gold cards. Here's 3 million Aureus and the resources you promised. Shui Mo and the others didn't know exactly how many resources were stored in the ring, but the 3 million Aureus still shocked them. At the time, they'd wondered what Yi Zichen had asked for to provoke such a reaction from Pang Zheng. Now that he had 3 million Aureus as a foundation, the resources in the ring would be even more valuable. He felt sorry for Pang Zheng for 3 seconds. Of course, she only felt sorry for him for 3 seconds. Shui Mo and the others were all from Anti-Upheaval. They'd never been on good terms with the Grizzly Bear Society. The Anti-Upheaval Society was more than happy to see Pang Zheng bleed. Yi Zichen accepted the ring and golden card, then briefly checked the contents of the ring. He didn't reveal anything, so he retracted his divine sense and smiled leisurely. Then I'll kindly accept it on behalf of Anti-Upheaval. Now that we're even, I won't disturb you anymore. I'll take my leave first. After bleeding so much, Pang Zheng's face turned green. He cupped his fists and was about to leave, but after taking a few steps, he stopped. I hope to see you in the ranking battles in half a year, Brother Yi. I can't say for sure, but I'll do my best to go. Yi Zichen laughed. Pang Zheng led the grizzly bears away. At that moment, Shui Mo ran over like a little miser and snatched the ring. She wanted to see what was inside. Before long, she looked at Yi Zichen in astonishment. You're too black-hearted. No wonder Pang Zheng's face turned so green. You probably asked for half of his wealth. How much? I thought it was too little. Don't think too lowly of yourself. You're worth far more than this. Or perhaps you should say, you're priceless. I asked him for this because I knew he couldn't afford it. Yi Zichen smiled calmly, then placed the 3 golden cards in Shui Mo's hands. Use this money to develop Anti-Upheaval. With what Pang Zheng gave us, we should be able to recover a bit. At the same time, Yi Zichen stretched lazily and yawned. I've been too tired these past few days. I'm going back to sleep. Even after Yi Zichen left, Shui Mo stared blankly at the golden card and ring in her hands. Yi Zichen's words echoed through her head. After a long while, she came to her senses. When she saw that Yi Zichen had disappeared, she couldn't help but ask, "Where's Yi Zichen?" He said he went back to rest, replied Li Hu. Then let's go back then. Shui Mo put the ring and golden card away, then put her hands behind her back and walked to the front. However, something else clearly lingered in her eyes. Divine power is actually a product of immortal power. Compared to immortal power, divine power is of a higher grade. In a classroom large enough to hold 100,000 people, the teacher was explaining the origins of divine power. Yi Zichen sat in the most inconspicuous corner, his eyelids drooping as he yawned. It couldn't be helped. This sort of topic really didn't interest him in the slightest. What's more, there were 100,000 people crammed into the classroom. Although everyone held their breaths and didn't dare make a sound, perhaps no more than 10% of them could actually study. However, they had to attend this sort of class. If they didn't, their academic credits would be deducted. Once their academic credits dropped to a certain level, they'd lose the right to study at the academy. Excuse me. Just as Yi Zichen was taking a nap, someone inexplicably whispered into his ear. When he heard this, he looked up and saw Shui Mo standing next to him with her hair up. He didn't know when she'd appeared. Why are you here? After reaching the Sky Supreme level, there was no need for her to attend classes. Even if she really wanted to attend, she didn't need to attend this sort of basic class. Hurry up and move over. Do you want others to discover that I'm here? In response, Yi Zichen shuffled over. Shui Mo cautiously looked around, then shrunk back into Yi Zichen's seat. As she sat down, Yi Zichen took a closer look at her attire. She looked quite feminine. This class is so boring, isn't it? Said Shui Mo as she sat down and listened to the teacher's meaningless words. Aren't you just spouting nonsense? What are you doing here? Why don't you just stay in the society? Bao Jingwu and Guangfa are in charge of the society. I don't have to keep an eye on it. Besides, you're the hero who brought Anti-Upheaval back to prominence. I'm just worried you'd be bored, so I came to keep you company. Speak properly. Yi Zichen was speechless. You don't know how to flirt. She glared viciously at Yi Zichen, her gaze indescribably flirtatious. Chapter 1229. Reward missions. Over the past few days, Yi Zichen's classes had tormented him to the brink of collapse. When Shui Mo said she could save him from his current predicament, his sleepy eyes lit up. I want to. Yi Zichen was so excited that he slapped his thighs and stood up. The lecturer, who was lecturing on the origins of divine power, frowned. Is there a problem with that student over there? No. Yi Zichen smiled sheepishly and sat back down. The lecturer didn't pay much attention to his previous topic, but Shui Mo couldn't help but facepalm. Idiot. Yi Zichen shrunk his neck and said nothing for a while. When he sensed that the lecturer wasn't looking in his direction, he finally spoke carefully. Senior Sister Shui, how are you going to save me? When this class is over, come see me at our headquarters. With that, Shui Mo bowed, gestured at Yi Zichen, then quietly slipped out of the lecture hall. Yi Zichen managed to endure until the lecturer left. In truth, this lecture had been somewhat useful to him. Of course, it wasn't very useful. As soon as the lecturer left, Yi Zichen hurried over to Anti-Upheaval's headquarters. Under normal circumstances, as long as it wasn't during class time, the members of the club would stay in the base camp. Societies were like clans in the outside world. Society members were all family members, either busy with the society's affairs or cultivating in seclusion. Due to Anti-Upheaval's glorious history, they were the top student society of the 5 great clans. Their headquarters could house over 1 million members. When Yi Zichen arrived, quite a few of the society members were there. When they saw him, they nodded at him. Although Yi Zichen had just arrived, everyone in the Skyspan Empire knew of the excavator school. Senior Sister Shui, I'm here. Yi Zichen arrived at Shui Mo's lotus pond. Chen Guangfa was there as well, talking to Shui Mo. When they saw Yi Zichen, they stopped talking. Shui Mo handed him a jade slip and told him to leave. You got here pretty quickly, said Yi Zichen with a smile. Yi Zichen smiled at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen watched Chen Guangfa leave, then grinned. That's for sure. Senior Sister Shui told me to come. So how could I not hurry? Good attitude. Shui Mo nodded in satisfaction. Yi Zichen really didn't want to take those boring classes anymore. Although he didn't like seeing Shui Mo like this, for the sake of his own happiness, he had no choice but to smile obsequiously. I'm fine, Senior Sister Shui. I wonder what brilliant plan you have to help me get out of this predicament. Hey, wasn't Platoon Leader Yi quite arrogant before? Shui Mo pursed her lips and teased. Elder sister, you're my elder sister. In the past, I was young and ignorant. Hurry up, if you have any tricks up your sleeve, just say it. If you can make me not attend class and still not deduct points, you'll be my goddess. So you can't do anything about it? Yes, you have always been my goddess. When Shui Mo heard that, she pursed her lips and chuckled. She stopped teasing Yi Zichen and tossed him a jade slip. Look, Yi Zichen caught the slip and probed it with his divine sense. The contents of the slip seemed to be a bounty mission. The general gist of the mission was that a large number of people had died in the vicinity of Barren Sand City. None of the surrounding vassal villages had escaped the calamity. However, the city supervisor had failed to investigate the cause of death, so he asked Skyspan Academy to send someone to investigate. Yi Zichen withdrew his divine sense, fiddled with the slip for a while, then tossed it back to Shui Mo, a bounty mission. That's right. Shui Mo accepted the slip and nodded. The Academy just received a bounty letter. According to the Academy's judgment, only the top 5 student societies can accept this mission. It just so happens that Anti-Upheaval hasn't accepted a bounty mission in a while, so I took it upon myself to accept it. So that's how it is. Yi Zichen nodded in understanding. Bounty missions give good points and resources. If Anti-Upheaval wants to return to the public, we really do need to accept a few high-level missions. But what does that have to do with me not attending class? Bounty missions require teams of 10, so I'm planning to give you a spot. When the time comes, I'll report it to the Academy. You won't have to attend class anymore, and your points won't be deducted, either. Go on a bounty mission? Just now, he'd seen that the bounty mission required Sky Supremes. since the Academy had decided that they needed Sky Supremes and Earth Supremes. Who's going for this bounty mission? Luo Zi and Li Hu are definitely going. Guangfa and I will go as well. I've already found the other 5, so it's up to you now. Shui Mo crossed her arms. As if sensing Yi Zichen's hesitation, she continued. This bounty mission rewards 10,000-year black jade. A few days ago, didn't you ask me where I could buy 10,000-year black jade? The material is right in front of you. If you go, I can promise you first dibs on the jade once the mission is over. I have to pay for it. Isn't that free? Yi Zichen arched his brows. Shui Mo couldn't help but roll her eyes. What are you thinking? If it were just the 2 of us, I could give it to you for free, but there are other people involved. Giving you first dibs on the jade is already quite generous. Are you going or not? Just tell me. 10,000-year black jade was a necessary material for condensing a devil dharma body. He needed at least 150 kilograms of it. Even if he opened the 2nd floor of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, he'd still have far less than that. That was why Yi Zichen hadn't condensed his dharma body yet. During his time at Skyspan Academy, Yi Zichen had asked quite a few people about 10,000-year black jade. 1 kilogram was worth 1,000,000 Aureus, but there was no supply. The Academy had quite a bit of it, but he could only buy it with points. Condensing a devil dharma body was urgent, but Yi Zichen didn't have the time or energy to grind for points. Recently, there had been no news of 10,000-year black jade at the Skyspan Trading Company's auctions. This mission might be the fastest way to obtain the 10,000-year black jade. Have you thought it through or not? If you don't want to go, I'll have to contact the others, said Shui Mo with a frown. Are you sure I can get first dibs on 10,000-year black jade? I can. Shui Mo's certainty dispelled all of Yi Zichen's misgivings. He steeled his resolve and gnashed his teeth. All right, then it's settled. Count me in on this bounty mission. Chapter 1230. The meeting of the 3 great student societies the next morning. By the time the sun rose over the horizon, quite a few people had already gathered at Anti-Upheaval's headquarters. Brother Yi, you're here. Yi Zichen, dressed in black robes, appeared in front of them. He recognized all of them. Luo Zi, Li Hu, Shui Mo, and Cheng Guangfa. They were all members of Anti-Upheaval. Yi Zichen nodded at them, then crossed his arms and stopped. Society head, how much longer will it take for the others to show up? Li Hu couldn't wait any longer. He'd been the first to arrive, and he'd been waiting for almost 2 hours. Given his personality, he naturally couldn't help but complain. They're here. A group of people walked in their direction. From afar, it looked like they were made up of 3 women and 2 men. However, it was early in the morning, so they couldn't see very clearly. Before long, they drew closer. Liu couldn't help but widen his eyes. No way. The head of the Appearance Association and the head of the Aspiration Society? Yi Zichen trembled. The Appearance Association was a society made up entirely of women. There were over 1 million of them, and almost half of Skyspan Academy's female population was female. The society's leader, Murong Shui, was a 9th stage Sky Supreme. People called her Queen Murong. The Aspiration Society ranked 4th among the 5 great student societies. The Aspiration Society ranked 3rd, and the society's leader, Jian Yong, was also a 9th stage Sky Supreme. Some people said he was half-step diviner, and according to the Academy statistics, he ranked 3rd. He was second only to the elusive sword immortal Jiang Wei and the Grizzly Bear Society's Pang Jingning. With these 2 fearsome people on their side, Li Hu and the others were confident that they'd succeed. Momo darling. At that moment, Murong Shui suddenly ran over to Shui Mo's side and hugged her tightly. Let me see if you've grown any bigger. As she spoke, she reached for Shui Mo's chest. Go to hell. Shui Mo pushed Murong Shui away, then said disdainfully, I told you to come earlier. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? You're a woman. Of course they're troublesome. Momo darling, you have to understand me. Murong Shui smiled coquettishly and pointed at the 2 beauties behind her. Look, I brought you the 2 beauties of our Appearance Association. The 4 great beauties of the Appearance Association were captivating birds and beasts, eclipsing the moon and blushing flowers. The 2 beauties in front of him were twin sisters. The elder sister's name was Dai Xiaoyu, and the younger sister was Dai Xiaoyan. They were one of the four great beauties. These two sisters were the pillars of the Appearance Association and were 8th-stage Sky Supremes. Because they were twin sisters, they were able to communicate telepathically. When the two of them joined forces, even a 9th-stage Sky Supreme would lose to them. Right, I ran into Jiang Yong and the others on the way. Murong Shui said with some disdain. I didn't want to come with them at first, but they insisted on coming with us. They've seriously dragged down the reputation of our Appearance Association. President Murong, am I that bad? Jiang Yong was a coarse man with a full beard. He was a forthright and loyal person. However, in terms of appearance, it was just as Murong Shui had said. They had seriously lowered their attractiveness. Do you think I look like a potato? Murong Shui crossed her arms in disgust. President Shui, please be the judge. Am I really that ugly? Said Jiang Yong, somewhat unconvinced. Shui Mo didn't reply. She merely nodded her chin. I can't do this mission anymore. Jiang Yong indignantly waved his hands and turned to leave. To his surprise, Murong Shui snorted. Get back here. Jiang Yong had only taken a few steps when he obediently returned. Murong Shui snorted at him. I've just said a few words, and you won't listen? You've really got guts. There's something fishy going on between the two of them. Li Hu and Luo Zi gossiped behind them, but Yi Zichen agreed with them. It seemed there really was something fishy going on between these two chairman-level figures. Murong Shui was so agitated that she couldn't speak for a long while. Jiang Yong shook his head helplessly. President Shui, don't say that I'm not interested in your mission. Queen Murong brought her 2 golden flowers, and I brought our team's god of war. As soon as Jiang Yong said this, a rather pleasant-looking youth named Pan Sheng cupped his hands in greeting. President Shui. Then, without another word, he returned to Jiang Yong's side. Pan Sheng's personality was just like that. He was a man of few words. However, the jade flute at his waist could play the song of departed souls, a tune that even 100,000 Supremes couldn't do anything to. I'm very grateful that you've all come to help Anti-Upheaval complete this mission. Shui Mo is deeply grateful. Shui Mo cupped her fists at everyone. I'm sure you're all familiar with this mission, so I won't waste any more time explaining it. We all know, it's a Sky Supreme, after all. But baby Momo, you're really quick. Our Appearance Association wanted to accept this mission too, said Murong Shui helplessly. Murong Shui, can't you speak properly? Shui Mo glowered at her in disgust. Baby Momo, I'm so hurt. Murong Shui looked aggrieved as she wiped her tears. I'm suddenly regretting inviting the Appearance Association to help us. Can we withdraw now? I'm going to contact the other student societies, said Shui Mo's senior apprentice sister. Please reconsider. Chun Guangfa hurriedly tried to console her. It was obvious that Shui Mo really didn't like this sort of thing. Murong Shui put away her playful demeanor and crossed her arms. Her eyes flashed. Just a second ago, she was the soft, cuddly sort of woman. But now, she was a queen who could decide the fate of 10,000 people with a wave of her hand. If Momo doesn't like it, then I won't do this. But I'm a bit curious. If this is a Sky Supreme level mission, why is this handsome little guy here? Their names have been called out. Murong Shui's gaze was clearly on Yi Zichen. Jiang Yong and the others looked over as well. When they saw Yi Zichen, they couldn't help but laugh. Brother Yi, you're here too? I've heard of your illustrious name before. That grandson Pang Zheng's squad lost 20% of its members all of a sudden. How delightful. But it seems Brother Yi isn't even a Sky Supreme yet. Yi Zichen. I told him to come. What about it? When she heard that Murong Shui and Jiang Yong were picking on Yi Zichen, Shui Mo put her hands on her hips and snorted. This is our Anti-Upheaval Society's mission. Whoever I tell can come. So what if Yi Zichen isn't a Sky Supreme? I want him to come. Chapter 1231. Baron Sands, City Shui Mo's face instantly reddened. Everyone watched this scene intently. As the person in question, Yi Zichen felt a bit uncomfortable. However, Murong Shui didn't stop teasing him. Once Shui Mo was speechless, she crossed her arms and looked Yi Zichen up and down, then pinched his arm a few times. You look pretty weak. but I think you're quite strong, and your looks aren't bad either. I agree to this marriage. Shut up, you. Shuemo's face reddened even more. She glowered at Murong Shue, then waved her hand and summoned a flying boat. I'm going on a mission. With that, Shuemo stepped onto the flying boat. The others followed. Murong Shue watched her back playfully, then walked up to Yi Zichen's side and whispered, "You have to keep it up. Keep it up." Barren Sand City was located to the south of the northern Divine Mountain. Here, it was rare to see even the slightest hint of greenery. Everything within a radius of 10 million kilometers was a desert. Yi Zichen had also witnessed the power of a divine auxiliary artifact. It should have taken them 3 days to get there, but with the help of the boat, it took them less than half a day to reach Barren Sand City's territory. We're here. Piloting the airship required a large amount of divine power. When they reached Barren Sands City's territory, Jiang Yong stopped replenishing the ship's divine power. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he took out a pill to replenish his divine power. The other people on the airboat also came to the edge of the airboat and looked down at the Barren Sands City silently. In the sky above the city, there was a faint purple color visible to the naked eye. There was also quite a bit of purple mist gathering above the city. How many people have died here? The Appearance Association's two blossoms couldn't help but ask. Murong Shue, who'd been teasing Shue Mo this entire time, had a grave look in her eyes. She crossed her arms and ordered the flying boat to circle around Barren Sand City a few times. Jiang Yong, who'd recovered about 70% of his divine power, walked over. He stared at the purple mist above the city and frowned. I'm afraid over 1 million people have died here. Otherwise, the aura of death wouldn't be so thick. The bounty mission says that more than a dozen tribes near Barren Sand City died in a single night. Bahuang City has sent out elite troops to investigate, but to no avail. This time, we're going to ask Tong Tian Academy for help. Shuemo narrowed her eyes at the city below, then glanced at Chun Guangfa. Have you brought the pills I asked you to prepare? Crash. Countless pills appeared on the flying boat. The people from the Aspirations Association and the Appearance Association glanced at them. Then Shuemo picked them up and distributed them to everyone present. These are all consumption-type medicinal pills. They are both spirit restoration and detoxification. You're all doing missions for anti-upheaval, so we'll naturally pay for your daily expenses. Shue Mo said as she distributed the pills to everyone. No matter what happened down there, our purpose here is to investigate. If everything is ready, we will go down. The rest of them stuffed a pill into their mouths and nodded. This pill was used to detoxify the poison. Although this place was filled with the aura of death, no one could be sure if the mist above the city was poisonous or not. It was better to be vigilant than to nip it in the bud. When she saw everyone swallow their pills, Shue Mo nodded, popped a pill in her mouth, and had the flying boat land in front of Barren Sand City's main gates. The aura of death here really is uncomfortable. As they passed through the fog and descended, the deathly aura that pervaded the air made them feel even more distinct. Jiang Yong furrowed his brows and released his divine power, forming a thin veil around him. Murong Shue and the others from the Appearance Association crossed their arms and released their divine power as well. This feels a little familiar. As soon as he landed, Yi Zichen didn't release his divine power. Instead, he used his own senses to feel the aura of death. Don't just stand there. Let's go to the city lord's manor and get a basic understanding of the situation. Shue Mo led the way towards the city gates. As she neared, 2 soldiers armed to the teeth stood atop the gates and shouted, Barren Sand City is no longer accepting outsiders. Barren Sand City no longer accepts outsiders. If you want to stay, please go to another city. However, if you take another step forward, don't blame us for being rude. It seems Barren Sand City is on high alert, said Murong Shue with a frown. The others nodded. Shue Mo took out Skyspan Academy's emblem and held it high in her hands. We're a team sent by Skyspan Academy to investigate this matter. Please open the gates. We need to speak with the city lord. When they saw the emblem, the 2 soldiers immediately lowered their weapons. So, it's a team from Skyspan Academy. Please wait a moment. A soldier was left on the tower to keep watch while another soldier walked down from the tower and opened the gate. Please enter. The gates opened to a slit just wide enough for one person to pass through. Yizichin and the others stepped through. Once everyone was inside, the gates slammed shut. I am Baron San City's city guard general by Chio. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Based on the fluctuations of his divine power, Bai Chio was a third-stage Sky Supreme. He turned and gestured for them to enter. Shui Mo and the others nodded and followed him into the city lord's manor. Compared to the unbearable stench of death outside, the situation inside the city was much better. The people in the city were still carrying out their daily trades, but from their expressions, it could be seen that there was some fear and uneasiness in their eyes. The situation inside the city seems much better than outside, said Shui Mo. That's right. There's a spirit-clearing formation inside, as well as a spiritual formation that shields the outside from the aura of death. That's why things look much better inside the city than outside. Bai Chio nodded. As they chatted, they arrived at the city lord's manor. Everyone, this is the city lord's manor. The steward is already waiting inside. I need to keep an eye on the city's defenses, so I won't be sending you in. Take care, Master Bai. Bai Chio nodded at Yizichin and the others, then turned and dashed towards the city gates. It seems the situation here is much more troublesome than we thought, said Murong Shui solemnly as she watched Bai Chio's hasty departure. That's for sure. Baron San City's gates are already closed, and outsiders aren't allowed in. It's clear that the entire city is on high alert, said Jiang Yong. If it weren't troublesome, they wouldn't have come looking for Skyspan Academy, would they? Besides, the rewards for their missions are frighteningly high. Shui Mo chuckled, then glanced at the city lord's manor. Chapter 1232. Mission Upgrade. The steward of the city lord's manor was a kind-looking old man. His figure was slightly out of shape, and he had a small mustache. His eyes flashed with sharp light. It seemed like this old man, who could become the general manager of Baron San City, was no ordinary person. You must be the elites of Skyspan Academy. As soon as they entered the city lord's manor, the steward walked up to them. We're from Skyspan City's Skyspan Academy. Your esteemed city issued a mission request to our academy. So we're here, said Shui Mo solemnly. You're finally here, sighed the steward. He looked up at the deathly aura permeating the sky. I'm afraid our Baron San City is about to face a calamity. Why do you say that, steward? Asked Jiang Yong. The mission mentioned that over a dozen nearby tribes died in a single night, right? Let me tell you, in the past few days, the death toll has increased yet again, and it's growing faster and faster. The City Lord's Manor has already sent over a dozen teams to investigate, but they haven't found anything. More importantly, the steward's expression darkened. None of the teams we sent have returned either. Yizichin and the others were stunned. The City Lord's personal guards were all Sky Supremes, yet none of them had returned. When we asked for help from the Skyspan Trading Company, we were judged to be Sky Supremes. However, based on the rate of death, this mission is no longer Sky Supreme level. Our Baron San City has already sent a request for help to the Sea of Innocence and neighboring Divine Mountains. Children, I'm very grateful that you came to Baron San City, but this is no longer something you can investigate. You should go back. The mission's difficulty had increased. Yizichin and the others' eyes flashed with solemnity. When they looked at each other, they could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. What should we do? Should we go back now? Transmitted the two golden flowers of the Appearance Association. This transmission was a Group 1, so everyone in Skyspan Academy received it. Everyone was silent. After a while, Jiang Yong furrowed his brows and transmitted back. Steward, you said this mission isn't something we can complete, so there's an 80% chance we can't. I'm sure the Academy has received word as well. Shui Mo, did you receive the Academy's order to withdraw? No, replied Shui Mo. When a steward said that the level of the mission had increased, she looked at the communication device and did not receive any news from the Academy. Are we leaving or not? Li Hu asked. Shui Mo was the one who accepted the mission, and we were hired by Shui Mo. We decided to leave it to her. If she wants to leave, then she'll leave. If she wants to continue, Then our appearance association can continue. Murong Shui made her decision. Everyone looked at Shui Mo. She bit her lip and said nothing. In the end, she looked at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen, what do you think? The people of the Appearance Association and the Ascendant Pill Association never thought that the decision would fall into the hands of the only person who wasn't a heavenly supreme. Yi Zichen knit his brows. In truth, he'd been mulling things over. The steward of Barren Sand City wouldn't lie to them, and Skyspan Academy would definitely receive word that their missions had been upgraded. The Academy hadn't recalled the mission, nor had they given them any instructions to return. There was no way the Academy would let the outstanding students they'd nurtured die for no reason. It was highly likely that the Academy had determined that they were qualified to complete the mission. After a brief moment of hesitation, Yi Zichen voiced his thoughts. With that, Jiang Yong nodded. I think Brother Ye's right. There's no way the Academy would let us die for no reason. Since they haven't given us any instructions, they must be absolutely certain that we can complete the mission. Or perhaps they've already sent people to protect us in secret. Please don't repeat little Brother Ye's words, all right? Murong Shui rolled her eyes. That only makes you seem brainless, but I agree with little Brother Ye's analysis. In that case, let's continue with the mission. After the Appearance Association and the Aspiration Pill Association responded, Shui Mo made the final decision. Of course, if you want to withdraw from the mission, you can do so now. No one will think you're a coward. No matter what, this mission isn't just for Sky Supremes. We'll listen to you, Big Sis, said the Appearance Association's Golden Flower. Pan Xing didn't reply, but his resolute gaze made it clear what he wanted to say. This is Anti-Upheaval's mission to begin with. If our reinforcements aren't withdrawing, how are we supposed to withdraw? Li Hu grinned. Besides, Luo Zi and I just got back from the Grizzly Bears. We have to put on a good show. The only one who wanted to withdraw was Chun Guangfa. When he heard that the mission's grade had increased, his reaction was the greatest. Unfortunately, no one around him wanted to withdraw. After a moment's thought, he could only grimace. I won't withdraw either. Shui Mo nodded, then glanced gratefully at Murong Shui, Jiang Yong, and the others. Then, she turned to look at her doddering boss, Consul. Supervisor, we still want to continue with the mission. Barren Sands City and Skyspan City are on the same side, and Skyspan Academy students are only able to study in peace because of the support of the Northern Divine Mountain's countless cities. Now that Barren Sands City is in trouble, we'd like to offer our meager help. The supervisor hesitated, but when he saw their resolute faces, he couldn't help but nod. The road to becoming strong is filled with thorns. Your fearlessness reminds me of my youth. Blindly protecting you will indeed hinder your future growth. Fine. Then I'll make the decision and let you continue with this mission. If you succeed, Barren Sand City is willing to pay 3 times the previous price as a reward. Thank you for your recognition, Supervisor, said Shui Mo, cupping her hands. Shui Mo cupped her fists and said, I don't know where we should start. Please guide us, Lord Steward. Not long ago, the City Lord led Barren Sand City's elites to investigate the tribes to the northwest. You can leave the city and head there to meet up with him, said the supervisor. Little did they know, at that very moment at Skyspan Academy. Did you get in touch with Shui Mo? The Academy's dean frowned at the middle-aged man in the room. The middle-aged man had already sent out countless messages on his transmission device. When the dean questioned him, he shook his head. No. The dean slammed his hand down on the long table made of divine wood. The middle-aged man trembled in fright. Chapter 1233. Discover as soon as they stepped out of the city, the aura of death enveloped Yi Zichen and the others. It was very difficult to absorb the godly energy outside the cities of the immortal world, and it was very difficult to replenish the godly energy released. One could only rely on medicinal pills to replenish it. However, the situation here was somewhat terrible. Even though he was unwilling, he could only release his divine power to resist the death chi. The chief steward said that the city lord and the others are in the northwest. We should be going the right direction. We've been flying for more than 2 hours, but we still haven't seen them. Jiang Yong frowned. Let's try again. Murong Shui stared intently at her surroundings. Everyone else stood around the flying vessel, keeping watch and searching. There's a village below. Just then, the golden flower of the Appearance Association, Dai Xiaoyan, pointed at the bottom of the flying boat and shouted. The others all looked in the direction she was pointing. This seems to be the first village we've seen in a long time. Should we go down and take a look? Luo Zi asked. Let's go down and take a look. It doesn't matter if there are people in the village or not. We are here to investigate this matter. Maybe we can find some clues down there. After hesitating for a while, the leader of the mission team made a decision. Jiang Yong, the laborer who was piloting the flying boat, also landed the boat when he heard this. It's hard to imagine how the tribes around Barren Sands City live. Shuemo couldn't help but mutter as she gazed at the boundless desert. Before reaching the celestial being realm, it was very difficult to fly for a long period of time, and stepping on the sand would also consume a lot of stamina. Shuemo and the others could use flying boats to soar through the air, but these kinds of auxiliary divine artifacts were extremely expensive in the God realm. Natives couldn't even live in cities, so there was no way they could use such a convenient tool. Of course, they have their ways of living. Jiang Yong said indifferently, then narrowed his eyes and looked around. The villages outside of Barren Sands City all had tents. Of course, no one knew what kind of technology they used to make the tents much sturdier than expected. Jiang Yong and their stable war god, Pan Sheng, were at the front and back of the group. Luo Zi and Li Hu walked to the left and right of the team. The rest of them stood in the middle of the group and slowly moved forward to explore. So many dead people. Chen Guangfa's eyes widened as he looked around vigilantly. His body was clearly the strongest in the group, but his nervous expression showed that he was even more afraid than the beauties from the Appearance Association. Wait a moment. At Yi Zichen's whisper, the entire team stopped. Then he saw Yi Zichen run up to one of the corpses and run his fingers over it a few times. The people around him frowned at his actions. There were indeed many dead people here, but no one was willing to touch these corpses along the way. Because the cause of death of these people was unknown, everyone was worried that touching these corpses would make them touch something they shouldn't touch. Yi Zichen, don't touch anything. Let's see if there are any survivors or meet up with the city lord and get a better understanding of the situation, said Shuemo worriedly. Yi Zichen remained unmoved as he squatted in front of the corpses. This time, not only did he flip the corpses, he even tore off their clothes. In an instant, the naked body of the dead man appeared before everyone's eyes. Shuemo and the two golden flowers of the Appearance Association closed their eyes. Queen Murong, on the other hand, looked the corpse up and down, then shook her head. It seemed that Her Majesty the Queen was paying attention to what was below the waist and above the legs. Brother Yi, what exactly are you trying to do? Jiang Yong couldn't quite figure out what Yi Zichen was trying to do, so he couldn't help but ask. Yi Zichen knit his brows. He looked the corpse over, then ran up to the next one and tore off its clothes. Step back. Only then did Yi Zichen stand up in front of the dead man and push his hand backwards. Everyone else took a few steps back, then saw a demigod artifact appear in Yi Zichen's hand. A demigod artifact. Murong Shui and Jiang Yong couldn't help but arch their brows. Although they had demigod artifacts too, they came from prestigious clans. Their clans had only bestowed them upon them after they'd become Sky Supremes. When Yi Zichen first arrived at Skyspan Academy, he caused quite a stir. The two society heads had secretly investigated Yi Zichen's identity and found that he was an ascender. He'd ascended less than 2 months ago, yet he already had a demigod artifact. Could it be that Shui Mo had given it to him? Murong Shui rested her chin on her hand and glanced at Shui Mo. However, none of that really mattered. A single demigod artifact wasn't enough to pique their curiosity about Yi Zichen. Right now, they were more interested in what he was going to do with it. Then they saw Yi Zichen, standing in front of the dead man, bow deeply to him. Sword light flashed. Retreat. Jiang Yong's pupils constricted. At the same time, Pan Sheng bit down hard on his finger and slammed it into the ground. Countless spiritual inscriptions instantly appeared in the desert around them. The inscriptions flickered with dazzling blue light. A formation master. The #1 war god was actually a spiritual array master. The formation Pan Sheng had created was clearly a defensive one. The inscriptions crisscrossed to form an airtight fortress. Jiang Yong instantly appeared in front of Yi Zichen, grabbed him by the collar, and dragged him into the formation. Not bad, Jiang Yong. Your society managed to recruit a formation master. Murong Shui crossed her arms and chuckled, but there was a hint of jealousy in her eyes. Formation masters were the rarest of talents in the God realm. There were even fewer of them than pill refiners. Roughly 1 in 10 million appeared. Any spirit array master was a target that all the major forces would fight over, and their status was quite high in the God realm. Yet the aspiring society had a formation master helping them. It was normal for Murong Shui to be a little jealous. Luck, Jiang Yong replied calmly, but his gaze remained fixed on the corpse Yi Zichen had cut off. What's that? The corpse's severed arms spurted out a pure black blood that was extremely corrosive. It corroded the desert's golden sands black, and when it splashed onto the ground, a purplish-black aura spread outwards. That's not death chi. Death chi should be grayish-red, shouted Li Hu. Brother Yi, did you discover something? Asked Jiang Yong. Yi Zichen had inexplicably walked up to the corpses, stripped them naked, then chopped off their arms with his sword. Everything he'd done was very strange. It was clear that he'd sensed something the others hadn't. Chapter 1234. Against the subterranean beasts, the mission team maintained their original formation as they advanced. Due to the dense aura of death, they could only vaguely make out the silhouettes of buildings. The buildings were far farther away than they'd expected. Even with their speed, it took them an hour to get close. Once they got closer, they realized that it was an altar. The altar's foundation was made of pure limestone, and it had 9 steps in total. There were 4 stone pillars in the 4 corners. There were no patterns on the stone pillars, but there was a purple crystal ball on top of them. In the center of the altar, there was a stone pillar that far surpassed the other 4 in both radius and height. There was also a purple crystal ball on top of it, emitting a faint light. What's wrong with this altar? Shui Mo turned to Yi Zichen and asked solemnly. Some altars represented faith, while others were used to pray for blessings. Altars were quite common in villages and tribes outside cities. Haven't you noticed? Yi Zichen retracted his gaze, then pointed at the surrounding aura of death and the purplish-black mist. The aura of death, as well as the purplish-black mist I released when I cut off the dead man's arm, are all converging on this altar. That's true. Murong Shui crossed her arms and nodded. The aura of death here is much denser than anywhere else. Does that mean that this altar might be the key to the problem? Luo Zi also spoke at this moment. Yi Zichen didn't deny that, but he couldn't be absolutely certain either. Li Hu, on the other hand, twisted his neck and walked to the center of the altar. 2 battle axes appeared in his hands. If it's this altar's doing, why don't we just destroy it? With that, he raised his battle axes and swung them viciously at the altar. Don't! At practically the same time, Yi Zichen, Shui Mo, Murong Shui, and Jiang Yong cried out. However, it was already too late. Li Hu's axes had already smashed into the altar's central pillar. Someone's destroying the altar. The moment his axe fell, hundreds of demon beasts with earthy yellow fur drilled out from the desert around the altar. Subterranean beasts? Aren't they a race that lives in the south of the Yao world? Why would they appear here? The Golden Flower Sisters of the Appearance Association asked in unison. Isn't it obvious? The subterranean beasts of the Yao race have appeared outside Barren Sand City, and in such a sensitive location at that. I'm afraid they have something to do with the incident in Barren Sand City, snorted Luo Zi. You're really ugly. Murong Shui's expression was one of disgust. What's going on? Only then did Li Hu realize what was going on. He stared blankly at the subterranean beasts that were slowly gathering toward them. Isn't it all your fault? Luo Ziquang rolled his eyes. Subterranean beasts are a low-level divine beast clan of the demon race. They're as strong as human immortals when they're young, and can reach the 3rd stage Sky Supreme level at the very least when they're adults. The subterranean beasts in front of us should all be adults. In other words, There are at least 100 third-stage Sky Supremes in front of us. Shuemo gripped her dagger and stared at the surrounding subterranean beasts. The others drew their weapons as well. What do we do now? Jianyong asked, also wielding his battle axe. What else can we do? Yi Zichen looked at the subterranean beasts surrounding them, then gripped his demigod artifact sword. Kill our way out. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zichen led the charge and charged toward the south of the altar. Sword shakes the 8 Desolaces. Countless beams of sword energy gathered behind him, then slammed into the subterranean beasts. However, not a single one of them landed on the subterranean beasts. Instead, they all landed in the desert. The sword energy slammed into the desert, instantly stirring up a blinding sandstorm. However, a lithe figure dashed through the sandstorm. There was a flash of silver light, and a subterranean beast collapsed to the ground. It was a pleasure working with you. Shuemo returned to Yi Zichen's side, dagger in hand. Blood dripped from the wound. The subterranean beasts are clumsy. If we work together, we might really be able to take care of them all. Yi Zichen nodded in response. He was only a 7th-stage Earth Supreme right now. If he really wanted to, he could deal with the subterranean beasts, but he didn't want to expose himself too early. Being a support wasn't a bad idea either. He looked around. The Aspiration Society occupied the West, and Jianyang's battle axe was unstoppable. The Appearance Association's Murong Shui was a wildfire in the north, and with the help of the 2 golden flowers, she was having an easy time. In the east, Chen Guangfa, Luo Zi, and Liu didn't seem to have much of a problem. Let's go. Yi Zichen retracted his gaze and focused. He was still in the mood to care about the others. In truth, they were the ones most likely to break through. The others were all 8th-stage and 9th-stage Sky Supremes, but he and Shuemo, one was a 7th-stage Earth Supreme, while the other had just become a Sky Supreme. After 6 hours of fierce fighting, the subterranean beasts were practically wiped out. In truth, everyone else was having an easy time. Only Zichen and Shuemo were having a bit of a hard time. Fortunately, as soon as they finished off the remaining subterranean beasts, they hurried over to help. You little bastard, go report to the river Styx. With a furious roar, Jianyong cleaved the last subterranean beast in 2. Bright red blood splashed onto his face, instantly turning him into a bloodied man. I'm starting to dislike you more and more. Murong Shui crossed her arms and shook her head. In this battle against the subterranean beasts, Jianyong and Li, who were the only ones covered in blood. She looked at them disdainfully, but in the end, she shook her head and sighed. Brute. Liu scratched his head in embarrassment. He couldn't argue back. If he hadn't rashly tried to destroy the altar, this wouldn't have happened. Jianyong, still soaked in blood, laughed heartily, wiped the blood from his face, and waved his axe. That's a real man. His words were obviously directed at Murong Shui, but all she got in return was an eye roll. However, she pulled a piece of cloth from her spatial ring and tossed it at Jianyong. Hurry up and wipe yourself. You're so dirty. Yi Zichen and the others could tell that there was definitely something going on between the two of them. No one paid any attention to their flirting. The others either ate pills to recover their divine power or busied themselves with other matters. Jianyong grinned and wiped his face and arms a few times, just as he was about to place the cloth in his spatial ring. Chapter 1235. The 2 brutes fainted, although Jianyong's fall to the ground was very soft. The sound still reached everyone's ears. Murong Shui was practically the first to rush to his side. Ignoring the blood on his body, she frantically hugged him. Jianyong, Jianyong. The others all jumped in fright, but misfortune never came alone. Not long after Jianyong collapsed, Liu's vision also went black. He instinctively reached out to grab Luo Zi, but he missed and fell to the ground. Oh well, Li. Luo Zi, who was just about to rush to Jianyong's side, cried out involuntarily. When the others saw Li Hu collapse, they were visibly nervous. Pan Sheng knit his brows as he watched. Then he walked to the center of the altar. Hold your breath. With a furious roar, he pulled several divine stones from his robes and used them as a base. Using his essence blood as a guide, he carved out a completely sealed space above the altar. Inside this spiritual formation, the death chi and the purple mist were constantly being repelled outwards. Is this mist poisonous? Didn't we already take antidote pills on our way here? The golden flowers of the Appearance Association frowned in confusion. When Jiang Yong and Li Hu collapsed, they'd examined their bodies and found nothing out of the ordinary. The others did the same. Only the two of them remained unconscious. What's so similar about them? Shui Mo furrowed her brows. While they'd been unconscious, Yi Zichen had wondered if it was because of the purple mist. From the very beginning, he'd suspected the mist's origins, so much so that he'd focused all his attention on it. However, even if the mist was poisonous, based on their cultivations, he should have been the first to fall unconscious. That is, until Shui Mo brought up her previous suspicions. There were similarities between the two of them. Yi Zichen wordlessly walked to Jiang Yong's side. Murong Shui was already nervous to the extreme. She poured all of her divine power into Jiang Yong's body, but his eyes remained shut, and he showed no signs of waking up. Yi Zichen swiped his finger across Jiang Yong's blood. After carefully examining it, his pupils constricted, and he hurried to Li Hu's side. As expected, when he saw the blood on their bodies, Yi Zichen nodded in understanding. Did you discover something again? When Shui Mo heard this, she hurried over. Murong Shui and the others stared at him nervously. Yi Zichen nodded at them, then took out 2 pills and stuffed them into Jiang Yong and Li Hu's mouths. Just let them lie there. Don't instill any more divine power into them. They should wake up in no time. Murong Shui and Luo Zi didn't suspect anything. They hurriedly found a comfortable spot for Jiang Yong and Li Hu to lie down. However, they did not leave. They sat next to the two of them without moving an inch. What did you just give them? Asked Shui Mo. It's just a normal pill. What else could it be? Yi Zichen shrugged. What's going on with them? Why did they suddenly fall unconscious while the others seemed fine? Asked Shui Mo in confusion. Yi Zichen arched his brows, then glanced at Jiang Yong and Li Hu. Let's wait until they wake up. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out several more pills and placed them in Shui Mo's hands. Distribute these pills to everyone. The antidotes you brought aren't enough for the current situation. Shui Mo pursed her lips and nodded. She took the pills and looked at Yi Zichen. Thank you. Her gratitude came from the bottom of her heart. Just now, she'd truly been in a panic. Fortunately, Yi Zichen was there to control the situation. Otherwise, she really wouldn't know what to do. Sensing her sincerity, Yi Zichen smiled and nodded, then gestured for her to distribute the pills as quickly as possible. Everyone else received their pills. Although they were worried about Jiang Yong and Li Hu, they were more than willing to believe Yi Zichen's words. They wake up soon. The others who hadn't fainted began to recover their divine power. Now that Jiang Yong and Li Hu were unconscious, they had to hurry up and get their divine power back to peak condition in case something unexpected happened. The only one who hadn't recovered was Shui Mo. She crossed her arms and paced back and forth around the altar. She was the one who'd accepted this mission, and she was the one who'd invited them. If something really happened to Jiang Yong and Li Hu, she'd be hard-pressed to escape the blame. This should be the Devil Dharma body's basic structure. Yi Zichen leaned against the corner of the altar. He wasn't cultivating. Instead, he was analyzing the Devil Dharma body's structure in his spiritual sea. In truth, he'd spent the past few days researching the Devil Dharma body's basic structure. The Supreme Dharma body's secret tome clearly stated the materials needed and the general direction of the Dharma body's construction. However, the construction method wasn't set in stone. Any successful Dharma body would fail countless times because it needed to be perfected over time. However, Yi Zichen couldn't afford to fail. The materials needed for the Devil Dharma body were extremely expensive. Even with the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, it was difficult to gather them all. He had to succeed on the first try. During his time in the God Realm, he'd performed at least a few thousand simulations. Just now, he'd obtained the most perfect and reasonable construction method. Is there anything else I need to improve? Yi Zichen looked at the virtual model in his spiritual sea, which was tens of thousands of feet tall. His sole body circled the model, occasionally rubbing his chin and scratching his head as he carefully examined it. "Jiang Yong, you're awake." At that moment, Murong Shui's startled cry jolted Yi Zichen out of his spiritual sea. The others returned to their senses and saw Jiang Yong, who'd been lying flat on the ground, sitting up with his hands on the ground. He rubbed his head repeatedly. "What's going on?" Jiang Yong muttered in confusion. He had no recollection of what had just happened, but he vaguely remembered that he'd wanted to. "Oh, where's my cloth? You're finally awake. You scared the hell out of me." Only then did Shuemo let out a long sigh. Jiang Yong stopped searching for the cloth. When he saw everyone's solemn expressions, he couldn't help but arch his brows. "What's wrong? What happened to you just now? Don't you know?" When she saw that Jiang Yong had woken up, Murong Shui returned to her usual cold tone. "Just now you suddenly fainted. We all thought you were going to die. We wanted to feed you to the wild dogs, but little brother Yi thought you could still be saved, so he didn't give up on your treatment." Although Murong Shui's words weren't pleasant to the ear, Jiang Yong had known her for so long that he'd long since gotten used to it. He understood what she was trying to say. Chapter 1236. Big Trouble. Jiang Yong cupped his fists, his eyes brimming with sincerity. Yi Zichen chuckled. "Brother Jiang, you're exaggerating. If it weren't for Queen Murong pouring divine power into you, it would have been too late by the time I thought of a solution." "Murong?" Jiang Yong couldn't help but look behind him. Murong Shui blushed inexplicably, then snorted coldly. "Don't think too much about it. I'm just worried that if you die, your family will go to my house and condemn me." "No way, no way. How could that be?" Jiang Yong laughed uproariously. "Not only will I not condemn you, once I get back to the academy, I'll immediately notify my clansmen to go to your house and get married. I'll take that cloth you gave me as a token of love." Scram! A fireball appeared in Murong Shui's hands, and she hurled it at Jiang Yong. Jiang Yong leapt into the air. The fireball. Roar! Li Hu, who was lying flat on the ground, leaped up from the ground. With this leap, he jumped more than 10 meters high. The flames of the fireball burned fiercely on his body. Li Hu howled and ran around the altar. Murong Shui covered her mouth in shock. She never would have guessed that a fireball would land on him. "Water, water, water." Everyone hurried to extinguish the flames. Yi Zichen sighed helplessly, then waved his hand, condensed a cannon of water, and blasted it at Li Hu. The fire went out. Li Hu froze in place, soaked like a drowned rat. However, the fire had already burned away his few remaining hairs, and his clothes were almost all gone. When he got closer, he could even smell the faint scent of roasted meat. Who the hell did this? After a brief moment of silence, Li Hu was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He exploded. "It was me." Murong Shui walked out calmly. When he saw that it was Queen Murong, Li Hu's aura instantly shriveled. "So it was you. Don't worry. It was a good fire, good fire." The sharp contrast left the onlookers dumbfounded. They couldn't help but think, this guy really has no limits. Murong Shui covered her mouth and giggled. She looked at Li Hu's pitiful expression and bowed. "I'm sorry, I accidentally burned you. I sincerely apologize to you." "Hey, it's just a small matter." Li Hu laughed dryly and scratched his head. Murong Shui glanced at his private parts in confusion and said, "Since it's just a small matter, how long are you going to play hoodlum for? Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're rich. Don't you see that even the little golden flower of our association doesn't dare to look at you?" Only then did Li Hu realize that he was naked down there. No wonder he felt a gust of wind when he was talking just now. Blushing, he covered his crotch and ran off to the side to change his clothes. Murong Shui glanced at Jiang Yong again. "What are you looking at? I'm much richer than him." "Oh." Murong Shui responded coolly with an "oh," then ignored him. Jiang Yong felt utterly humiliated. "Sooner or later, I'll show you just how powerful I am." Jiang Yong gritted his teeth. Yi Zichen borrowed a new set of clothes from Luo Zi and changed into them, then gathered at the center of the altar once more. "Pan Sheng, remove the spiritual formation," said Yi Zichen. Pan Sheng revealed a look of confusion. Yi Zichen pointed at the fog outside, which had already turned black. The deathly aura and mist will eventually converge here. We've set up the spirit formation here to block the altar from absorbing the deathly aura and mist, but can't stop the deathly aura and mist from converging here. Look at the situation outside the formation. Because so much energy has gathered, the mist and death energy have become even denser. If this continues, we won't be able to leave. But isn't the mist poisonous? Didn't Shui Mo just give you an antidote? With that pill's protection, there won't be any problems. Pan Sheng glanced at Jiang Yong. When he saw his society head nod, he spoke up. Hold your breath. Everyone held their breath. At that moment, Pan Sheng removed the formation. Without the obstruction of the spirit formation, the deathly aura and mist that had piled up outside the altar frantically gathered into the few stone pillars on the altar. Perhaps because there was too much of it, a few whirlpools appeared around the stone pillars. Given our current strength, it'll be difficult to destroy this altar. What should we do? Do we continue investigating, or do we return to the academy? Jiang Yong looked solemnly at the whirlpools overhead and frowned. It's not that I want to retreat, but I really don't think we can continue investigating this place. In truth, we've already investigated this thoroughly, said Yi Zichen with a chuckle. Everyone else looked towards him in confusion. Yi Zichen also squinted his eyes, which shone with a faint light. If my deductions are correct, the death here have something to do with the demons. Why do you say that? Asked Shui Mo. I don't know about you, but I've dealt with the demons many times. Everything I know about them is engraved in my bones. Yi Zichen's eyes flashed with cold light as he pointed at the purple mist overhead. When I first got here, I sensed something familiar about this purple mist. Now, I can confirm that this fog is actually miasma, a poisonous gas that only the abyssals of the demon race would release. Also, why did Jiang Yong and Li Hu fall unconscious while the others didn't? The only thing they had in common was that they both had vast amounts of subterranean beast blood on them. The pills I gave you, Jiang Yong, and the others all helped expel the miasma. When they thought back to the situation, it was just as Yi Zichen had said. Only the two of them, who'd wielded the axes, were covered in blood. But what does that have to do with anything? Subterranean beasts are Yao, said Li Hu. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and chuckled. Suddenly, Murong Shui, Jiang Yong, Shui Mo, and Chen Guangfa's eyes flashed with indescribable solemnity. The two golden flowers of the Appearance Association and Luo Zi knit their brows. Only Li Hu stared dumbly at the others. Why aren't you saying anything? Asked Li Hu uneasily. Brother Yi, are you confident in your conjecture? Asked Jiang Yong. Murong Shui said, I don't really believe it. Shui Mo said, that doesn't seem very likely. The rest of the team seemed to have abandoned Li Hu. Li Hu stared at them with wide eyes in confusion. I'm at least 80% sure, said Yi Zichen coolly. Jiang Yong slammed his fist into the altar's stone pillar, his eyes flashing with fierce light. If that's really the case, then we're in trouble. It is indeed. Murong Shui nodded. More importantly, the Yao and demons joined forces to invade the God realm without our knowledge. Chapter 12:37. An old acquaintance Li, who was obviously still in a daze, not knowing what was going on. The rest of the people had solemn expressions on their faces. They were all silent, and no one spoke. We have to hurry back to the academy. Jiang Yong, the leader of the Aspiration Society, suddenly spoke up, his eyes flashing with a fierce light. This is no longer a simple bounty mission. This is a threat to the balance that has existed between the demon, and God realms for tens of thousands of years. I agree with Jiang Yong. Murong Shui crossed her arms and nodded. She looked at the ground littered with subterranean beast corpses. It's very likely that we were the first to discover all of this, but everything is just our speculation. I think we should bring these subterranean beast corpses back so the academy can make a better judgment. The leaders of the two top student societies had both voiced their thoughts. Shui Mo was silent for a moment, then looked at Yi Zichen. What do you think? I also agree with the two presidents. Yi Zichen nodded. Pan Sheng, Luo Zi, and the two golden flowers of the Appearance Association immediately went to collect the subterranean beast's corpse. Lihu looked at everything with a blank expression. To be honest, he still did not understand what they were talking about. This group of demons, have they forgotten who it was who went to save them from the disaster when their world was about to be destroyed? Now that they're cooperating with the devil race, the seniors of the god world shouldn't have saved them. Jianyong's fists were tightly clenched, and an uncontrollable rage burned in his eyes. Don't say that. At that moment, Yi Zichen patted his shoulder, then took out a box of cigarettes. Do you want one? What is this? Jianyong had obviously never seen a cigarette before. He instinctively accepted it. Yi Zichen put a cigarette in his mouth, then ignited it with a spark of flame. Actually, as far as I know, the demon realm is divided. It's not that the entire demon realm wants to be enemies with the god realm. These extremists are only a small part of it. He had learned all this from Little White. Their tribe had split up. It was just that he wasn't very clear about the extent of the split and how much of the anti-god race demon race occupied. Jianyong copied Yi Zichen's example and took a puff. As for what Yi Zichen had just told him, he committed it to memory but didn't ask where it came from. This was the most basic of politeness. Everyone had their own secrets. Yi Zichen had it, and so did Jianyong. Guild leader put them away. In the time it took to smoke a cigarette, the two golden flowers of the Appearance Association and Pan Sheng returned to the altar. The corpses of the subterranean beasts outside the altar were all cleaned up. Not to mention the intact ones. Even the chopped up pieces of flesh were cleaned up. Let's hurry back then, said Murong Shui. The others nodded. Shui Mo summoned her flying boat. Wait a moment. Just as everyone was about to board, Yi Zichen suddenly turned to the side and gestured for them to wait. What is it now? Asked Shuemo. Something is running towards us, and it's causing quite a commotion. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and said, while the others listened intently. Up ahead, Li Hu, who'd been drifting about aimlessly, suddenly pointed ahead and shouted. The others looked in that direction and saw a dense mass of black shadows stirring up the desert. A horde of subterranean beasts. Luo Zi knit his brows. Don't tell me we just killed one of their companions, and they're here for revenge? Don't just stand there. Hurry up and get on the boat. Seeing this, Chen Guangfa was shocked and shouted nervously. Look, it looks like there are people running in front of the subterranean beasts, said the sharp-eyed Dai Xiaoyu, as she pointed ahead. The others followed suit. There really are people, shouted Dai Xiaoyan. Jianyong had already taken out his axe. They might be soldiers from Barren Sand City. We can't just watch them die. With that, Jianyong hefted his axe and charged at the subterranean beasts. Pan Sheng followed closely behind, several divine stones floating above his head as he prepared to set up a formation. That brute. There were quite a few subterranean beasts, and Murong Shui wanted to formulate a battle plan. Unfortunately, Jianyong had already run off. All she could do was stomp her feet angrily, take the Appearance Association's 2 golden flowers, and leave the altar. Hey, why do we have to fight and kill? Can we just fly over and pick them up? Chen Guangfa's eyes brimmed with helplessness. He was just a minor character who'd just become a Sky Supreme, and his family's first Sky Supreme. His entire family depended on him, and he knew full well the burden on his shoulders. He hated putting himself in danger the most. Just now that the subterranean beasts at the altar had no choice but to fight for their lives, but this time, my heavens, Chen Guangfa couldn't help but sigh helplessly. Not long ago, Li Hu and Luo Zi had rushed off to save their companions as well. Now he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Guangfa, I know you're the hope of your family, but how about this? We don't need you to save them. Take the flying boat and follow us. If you see us in danger, hurry up and save us. Shui Mo handed the boat over to Chen Guangfa, then nodded at Yi Zichen. The two of them hurried off in the direction of the subterranean beasts. Chen Guangfa watched helplessly as the others hurried off to save their companions. He was like an ant on a hot pan. He paced back and forth on the altar, struggling internally. Slap! Inexplicably, Chen Guangfa slapped himself hard in the face, the force of the slap causing his face to turn red. Then he bowed deeply to Yi Zichen and the others. He didn't choose to risk his life with them. Instead, he walked up to the flying boat and chose the safest method. He had no choice. He had his family backing him. He was his family's hope. He couldn't risk even the slightest bit of danger. Jiang Yong was like a meat grinder. He swung his axe madly, using his ninth stage Sky Supreme strength to slaughter the subterranean beasts in front of him. Boss, behind you! A subterranean beast suddenly appeared behind Jiang Yong. Pan Sheng was in the middle of setting up a spiritual formation. If he left, everything would go to waste. Besides, there were several subterranean beasts surrounding him. There was no way he could help. Flame explosion. A massive fireball slammed into the subterranean beast's body. Thanks, Jiang Yong grinned. Murong Shui scolded him in exasperation. Brute! Although she said that she and the Dai Xiaoyu and Dai Xiaoyan sisters of the Appearance Association began to support him, ensuring that he could hunt the subterranean beasts up ahead without any worries. At the same time, Murong Shui turned to the two pursuers and shouted, "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and run. Leave this to us." The two pursuers nodded gratefully and dashed forward. However, they just so happened to run into Yi Zichen and Shui Mo, who'd come to their aid. The instant they met, both the two fleeing cultivators and Yi Zichen, who was rushing over to help, inexplicably stopped in their tracks. When their gazes met, the two pursuers' eyes were filled with astonishment. "Brother Yi?" Yi Zichen gulped in astonishment when he heard this doubtful, unconfident voice. Chapter 1238. A barbarian to think they'd run into old acquaintances here. Both the Jade Emperor and Yi Zichen couldn't hide their astonishment. But from the looks of it, no one would have guessed that the two great emperors who'd once dominated the underworld and heavenly court were in such dire straits. The Jade Emperor's shoulder and leg were covered in visible wounds, and the great sacred emperor equaling heavens wasn't much better off. If nothing unexpected happened, you're the ones the subterranean beasts chased after you. Yi Zichen arched his brows. That's right. Are those fierce fellows your friends? Asked the Jade Emperor in bewilderment. You know them? Shui Mo couldn't help but ask. Yi Zichen nodded. They're my friends from before I ascended. Go ahead and help them. Tell them they can retreat now. I'll wait for you here. All right. Shui Mo nodded, raised her dagger, and hurried ahead. The two great emperors who once dominated the underworld and heavenly court seemed to be in quite a sorry state, said Yi Zichen, deliberately trying to lighten the mood. Don't try to hide it from us. What great emperors? Just call me by my real name. Friend Zhang. You can call me Zhang Bairen, sighed the Jade Emperor. East Peak, said the great sacred emperor equaling heavens. Yi Zichen could see that the two great emperors' expressions were somewhat bleak, so he stopped joking around. All right, but why did the subterranean beast chase after you? No, I shouldn't ask, but why did you come to Barren Sand City? When we ascended to the Divine Mountains, we were in Barren Sand City. Now we're the City Lord's personal guards, said Zhang Bairen with a sigh. The City Lord's personal guards. Yi Zichen's expression shook. You're from a City Lord's manor? What about the others? The steward said quite a few of the City Lord's personal guards came out. Why are there just the two of you? They're all dead. East Peak clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth. All 40 of them died. The two of us were the only ones left, and we almost died under those beast claws. Fortunately, you got here in time otherwise. East Peak trembled uncontrollably as he spoke. Yi Zichen could understand. They were the City Lord's personal guards, so there was no need to explain their relationship. Yi Zichen had experienced this sort of helplessness before as he watched his own brothers die to the jaws of Yao beasts. Although the atmosphere was very quiet, Yi Zichen couldn't fall into it. Yi Zichen patted East Peak's shoulder to console him, then asked, Then, the City Lord might have discovered something. He told us that it was dangerous ahead and asked us to return to the city first. He himself went to the front to continue investigating. As for his current situation, we don't know either. Only then did Yi Zichen relax. Platoon Leader Yi, how's the situation up front? Chen Guangfa, who'd been piloting a flying boat, hurried over. When Yi Zichen heard this, he couldn't help but frown. He'd already told Shui Mo to tell them to hurry up and retreat, but they still hadn't returned after so long. He took out a few bottles of pills from the Yao ceiling pagoda, some for healing, some for recovering, and some for detoxifying. Yi Zichen shoved them all into Zhang Byron's hands. Take these elixirs. They can heal your injuries. Get on the flying boat first. I'll go ahead and see what's going on. All right. Be careful, said the Jade Emperor as he accepted the pills. Yi Zichen nodded at his two old friends, then frowned and hurried ahead. By the time Yi Zichen arrived, he saw Shui and Mo instructing Li Hu and the others to charge inside. Why haven't you retreated yet? Murong Shui and the others are still inside. They've been surrounded by subterranean beasts, said Shui and Mo worriedly. What? Yi Zichen's pupils constricted. When he saw how many subterranean beasts there were, he realized they were countless times more numerous than the ones they'd encountered at the altar. As far as the eye could see, there was no end in sight. Murong Shui and the others were surrounded. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows, and a pair of demigod artifact swords appeared in his hands. Kill your way in, tear an opening and rescue them. F***CK. Why are there so many? By now, Jiang Yong was completely surrounded. He'd lost count of how many subterranean beasts he'd killed with his axe, but there seemed to be no end to them. Boss, I can't hold on much longer either. Pan Sheng was a man of few words, but this was a rare occasion for him to say something like this. Jiang Yong knit his brows and cursed at the subterranean beasts. Kill them all. Even if we die here, we'll drag a few more down with us. Big Sister Shui, there are too many subterranean beasts. The Appearance Association's golden flower looked like she couldn't hold on any longer. Murong Shui, who controlled the waves of fire, frowned as she looked at the dense horde of subterranean beasts. She couldn't help but look in Jiang Yong's direction. He's just a brute. With that, Murong Shui knit her brows and shouted, Forget about the others. Let's get closer to Jiang Yong and Pan Sheng. But that's not the way out, said Dai Xiaoyu. Listen to me. Get closer to them. Yi Zichen's group of 4 charged in relentlessly, while the 5 people inside fought their way out in a frenzy. Even so, the people inside were outstanding even among Sky Supremes, and there were even people like Jiang Yong and Murong Shui. However, no matter how strong they were, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Under the never-ending onslaught of the subterranean beasts, their divine power was rapidly draining, making it difficult for them to maintain peak condition. Jiang Yong's body was covered in wounds. Pan Sheng, who'd used his natal blood to set up a formation, was pale and teetering on the verge of collapse. Murong Shui, on the other hand, was madly pouring her divine power into waves of fire. Not even her soul-returning pills could keep up with her rate of consumption. The Appearance Association's 2 golden flowers were also expending a great deal of their divine power. Murong Shui, who'd been maintaining the waves of fire this entire time, couldn't replenish her divine power. Inexplicably, she took a few steps back. The subterranean beast seized this opportunity to leap into the air and swipe its razor-sharp claws at her. Oomph! Jiang Yong appeared in front of Murong Shui out of nowhere. He used his body to block the attack, then turned around and viciously chopped down on the subterranean beast's neck with his battle axe. Die! After dealing with the subterranean beast, Jiang Yong worriedly turned around. Are you all right? Murong Shui looked at Jiang Yong's concerned expression, then looked at the bone-deep wound on his chest. Murong Shui's eyes reddened inexplicably. She wanted to cry, but she fought back her tears. Brute! It seems you're all right. Jiang Yong grinned and laughed. He turned around, hefted his battle axe, and took a few steps forward. Yao bastard, you want to kill us? Come on, your grandpa Jiang Yong is standing right here. Let's see which one of you can take another step forward. One man holds the pass, 10,000 can't get through. That was exactly what they were witnessing. Murong Shui stood behind him. When she saw this, she couldn't hold back her tears either. Her reddened eyes flowed freely.